Tick-tock time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone watching from all over the world. It's your friendly neighborhood philosopher here, D. Wood. Got Jai with me as well. How you doing, Jai?
Hey, what's up? We just did a big stream on the Warner
The
and your
Warner.
guys' trip to New York. So that was pretty fun.
The Warner. Probably giving a little dawa now, and then we all know what happens after that. So thanks to Malik for sharing what happens. Dawa after dark. Look at this. Look, you want to see some people trying to cause division among us? Look at this. Hatun made fun of D. Wood being late, but had no effect. Trying to cause division. Won't work. Won't work. Nice try, though. Let's see. What is this? What is this? Look at these people. Tic tac. It's late. Shameful. Shameful. House of Hikmah, 6 minutes late. Only 7 minutes late. Jai must be a good influence. Must be a good influence. All right, guys. So, yesterday we watched Piers Morgan's discussion with Gad Saad, who tried to get Piers to have the slightest bit of common sense and realism when it came to Islam. Piers was having none of it. His mind is like Piers Morgan's mind is like Fort Knox. Nothing's getting in there. He's the opposite of Muhammad on the night of Al-Zut, where anyone could get in. But yeah, nothing's penetrating Piers Morgan's mind apparently at all. Like Gad said, used like 8 different analogies that any 6-year-old could understand. Not Piers Morgan, though. Not Piers Morgan. And that is seriously, seriously creepy.
Yeah.
Because it's just politicians all over the place, journalists all over the place, and Islam is calling for the subjugation of Great Britain. And that would be a really good time to at least be aware of it, so that you could make plans for dealing with it. Instead, just the elites, they can't even acknowledge that there is an issue. And if you can't even acknowledge there's an issue, guess what? You don't want to do anything to deal with the issue. And so just sit back, and we saw over and over again from Piers that the only actual radicals are ones going out engaged in a terrorist attack. If you're not doing that, there's nothing that's even possibly bad about your ideas, and everything is wonderful. And he could not acknowledge anything as dangerous except for people currently at this moment waging terrorist attacks. Other people, it can't possibly be a problem. That is the level of stupidity from the elites in Great Britain. Anyway, so that was the discussion with Piers Morgan and Gad Saad, but that was at the end of the show, and before that, there was a debate. I have not watched the debate. I know I put insane debate on Islam in the UK. That was not from watching it. I was just looking at the people who were on there.
Yeah.
And anything with chunk yogurt in it is it's going to be insane. They also had that guy called Loki. Loki is basically the Norse god that is most like Allah. He's a deceiver and extremely mischievous and so on. But a rapper named Low Key. And then 1 or 2 other people that I recognize, but I don't know their names or anything, but we're going to check it out. But they're having a debate on, it's funny because it's just Piers Morgan totally butthurt by something Megyn Kelly said, and then wanting to complain about it and getting people on there so that he can vent his frustration that some people have the nerve to think that there's a problem in the UK with Islam, and shame on them. So Piers gets chunk yogurt on there to call them all out. So we're going to check that out, guys. We're going to watch that and see what happens. All right, Jai, what are your thoughts on everything before we get started here?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely brought on chunk yogurt for the expertise he has on Islam in the UK. So that's Does he have any other guests other than himself that are British? Because I don't know most of the people that you mentioned. Are they all like
I do not know. Maybe you know these
okay?
people. I will. I'll pull it up real quick, and then we'll glance at the people involved because again, I've seen a couple of the others before, but don't know their names or who they are. But I'm guessing some of them are on the opposite side of Chunk Yogurt. But let's see who we have up on the
Uncensored
screen here.
viewers will be well aware that many.
All right, we'll come back to his little intro. But what do we have here? Let's see. So on the right-hand side, on top, I believe that is the rapper Low Key, because me and AP watched something with him a while back. That's Chunk Yogurt. The guy on the bottom left, who is that? Everyone, who is that, guys? I've seen that guy like a million times. I've never seen his name. So who knows it? Come on, guys, tell me who the guy's name is.
Somebody has to know.
Bottom left. Bottom left. I suppose I could go over in the... And then I don't know if I've seen the guy in the middle bottom before. And not sure I've seen... Oh, that's Andrew Gold? Oh, no wonder. Gosh, I must be insane. Yeah, AP was on there with... Oh, man, my brain is fried, man. I didn't recognize Andrew. Well, I mean, I recognize him. I was like, I know that, but I can't think of the guy's name. But yeah, okay, Andrew Gold, Heretics. Everyone should know Andrew Gold of Heretics. He's doing. He's got an awesome show.
Okay.
The others. Let me just. Instead of me sitting here wondering or trying to ask everybody, I'll just go over on the page because Piers Morgan probably mentions who these people are in the description. And by process of elimination, the remaining woman that I don't know and the remaining man that I don't know should be
easy to figure out.
The rest of the people.
Yeah.
Just 1 second, guys. Just want everyone to know the names in case you want to look them up or let's see. I don't see any. What the heck? You don't even put their names in the box? Oh, okay.
No credits? There's no credits to
Joining Piers Morgan. Okay, here we go. It's all the way at the bottom. Joining Piers Morgan to debate this is Reform UK's candidate for London Mayor, Lila Cunningham. So that's the girl.
Oh.
So that is Reform UK. Guys, like I see people support Reform UK, but then they change the political party every 2 years. They're like, oh no, turns out that political party was bad, but here's the new party that's going to save everyone. And then they'll rally around that for 2 years and so on. So anyway, you guys going to have to kind of pick one here, because you don't want just an endless series of new political parties trying to claim to be the solution. So Layla Cunningham, Heretics host Andrew Gold, rapper and activist Low Key, author and Black Studies professor Kehinde Andrews. That's the dude on the bottom. Kehinde Andrews and the Young Turks Chunk Yogurt. All right. Now we know who these, well, I guess we have a better idea. So Reform UK's candidate for London mayor. So she's going to be running against, what's his face?
Sadiq Khan.
Assuming he's going to be running again. All right. We ready to get started? We'll take these first couple of super chats and then we'll jump into the video.
Mm-hmm.
Search Google for Israeliyat. You can run the Islamic dilemma on steroids on the fact that later tafsirs continued to use Judeo-Christian sources. Yeah, there are lots of things that they got from the Jews, including apparently about 70% of the Quran, according to Defending a Lion, who has been tracing these stories in the Quran back to their Talmudic origins. Watched your stream on the Naomi vid. She doesn't understand what Christian love is and that the Quran is just paper and ink. Yeah. In her defense, that's just common in Western Christianity. It's a problem that people associated loving other people with being as nice as possible and not hurting their feelings ever under any circumstances. And I have no idea what Bible you're reading, but that view just became popular. Well, now I have to give my money to David. Hello again. Hey, Ida. By the way, I miss AP. Is he okay? Yeah. He's just he's transitioning, not not like other.
Not like other people do.
Yeah, not like other transitioning and stuff like that. Yeah, he's he'll be back. He'll be back. AP will be back. Is the UK being colonized? This is going to be epic. And we have it's a super sticker. Thank you for that. Oops. And weirdly enough, the Egyptian version of Loki is Set. Set is a deified version of Seth from the Bible, and in Egyptian mythology, Atum is the creator, and Set is second generation. Lots of parallels. Interesting. Then we have David. Did you watch Ryan Garcia versus Mario Barrios fight last night? And Garcia praised Jesus after the fight. No, I did not watch it, but I saw it. I saw that trending. And the clip of Garcia. So that's cool. Sir Whitemeat told me to unleash the crickets. He said you would know what that means. No. And how will they debate if opposing Islam is hate speech? Not UK. Just know they made Pathways and the internet loves the goth girl. They made the bad guy. Interesting. Yeah. Weird stuff ahead in the UK. Low-key may well be Norse given his fanatical views. Hey, don't be dissing Norse people, man. I'm 1/4 Norwegian. Which means if you're 1/4 Norwegian, it means you're 100% based. No, actually not. Like you're sitting there wondering, it's like you see Norway right now, like bunch of sniveling cowards in the government and so on. It's like, wait, these are the descendants of the Vikings? Really?
Yeah.
Seriously? Yeah. These guys? Anyway,
it's just like the UK. It's just like the UK. It's like this is Great Britain. These guys.
Yeah, it's my grandmother. It's my grandmother who was Norwegian. She was born in the U.S., but her parents are Norwegian, so she's like biologically Norwegian. But yeah, over at grandma's house, there were just like Viking statues all over the place. And so it's like, my warrior heritage. And then you see them today, and it's like, please come and subjugate us. Please, we want to be subjugated. It's like, what happened to you guys? One last. Would Muhammad Hijab beat Jake Paul in a boxing match? No. No. Jake Paul would annihilate Muhammad Hijab in a boxing match, just like 100%. Matter of fact, I guarantee you, if they fought 100 times in a row, Jake Paul would win 100 out of 100 against Muhammad Hijab. Just so you know, yeah. Just because you lose against a guy who was a couple of years ago heavyweight champion of the world, he also lasted multiple rounds with a guy who a couple of years ago was heavyweight champion of the world. So that means even though you lost, you're still a really, really good boxer compared to like a total, a guy who had 2 fights like Muhammad Hijab. Yeah. All right. We ready to jump into this, man?
Let's go. Let's do it.
All right, guys. Here we go. Piers Morgan. Hang on. I'm upset because people think there's a problem with Islam here. They don't know what I know. I don't have a problem. I was sitting in my mansion the other day thinking about how I don't have any problem with Muslims. People keep talking about these grooming gangs, but I haven't seen one of these grooming gangs in my mansion. It's weird because I think Pierce is a decent dude. It's just like he just has a massive blind spot here. It's just crazy. All right, guys, let's go ahead and check this out. We're going to check out this debate. Anything with chunk yogurt in it is bound to get stupid real quick. Like, that's every.
They need to have like medical on standby wherever that guy is, like for a debate, because I feel like he's just going to have like a heart attack any minute.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I don't have any like ill will towards like chunk yogurt, like physically and stuff, but I'm looking like anyone who's like that perpetually enraged.
Yeah,
dude, you gotta calm down, man. You gotta calm down. It's let me put it, you don't see a lot of 80-year-olds that enraged. Why? Because people that perpetually enraged and flipping out, like sweat pouring out of their heads, their hearts don't last that long, man. So you gotta calm down, man. Calm down. All right, let's check out some of this.
Uncensored viewers will be well aware that many American politicians and commentators have a very bleak view of Britain.
Because not everyone's an idiot, Pierce.
The UK, they say, has fallen. The nation of Shakespeare, the Beatles, and the Magna Carta has become a nation of Sharia law, grooming gangs, and censorship. Megyn Kelly articulated this view last week in her usual excoriating style on my show.
And here I am still whining about it. And even when I have Gad Sad on, I'm just going to whine about Megyn Kelly the entire time.
This attitude that you have right here is why you in Great Britain have lost your culture. You ceded your culture to a bunch of radical Muslims who came in and took over, and now it's gone. We're not allowing that here. Whether it's Hispanic, whether it's Muslim, it's not happening in the United States of America. That's why President Trump was elected.
And I have to point out, it's also a very different issue in the sense that the United States is a very, very huge place compared to Great Britain. The idea in the United States is like the melting pot, right? Like people come from all over the world and stuff like that, and we have like core values and the core, things that people have to adapt to. But it's okay if people continue to love their heritage, and so it's a big place. It's not the United States is not in danger from. If people come in from a different country and still, honor their traditions or whatever it is. The UK, comparatively, tiny place. Yeah. And you've got some big cities, and they keep bringing tons and tons of Muslims into those cities. And so they're like taking over the hubs. They're taking over the huge hubs. And when we say, you're losing your culture and things like that, Pierce only interprets these things as right now you must be claiming that the UK is officially under Sharia and that Islam has taken over. And if you mean anything else by that, oh, they're really messing you up, you're having to change your laws to accommodate them and so on. And given the number of people you have there and their birth rates and the number of people you're bringing in, this leads in a very, very dangerous direction. And so we're trying to warn you by all these claims and so on. And he's like, nope, we're not. I checked the law books right now. It did not say that Sharia law is the official law of the land. And so all this is complete nonsense and there's no danger anywhere. It's weird.
Completely head in the sand.
Yeah, it's like extreme black and white thinking. You are either 100% under the control of Sharia law or there is zero problem at all. And it's just, my goodness, that's weird. But let's see.
Now, whether you agree with her sentiment or not, and I don't, the fact is that many British people do agree with it. Nigel Farage's Reform UK is leading in national polls. Elon Musk, who says a civil war is inevitable in the UK and often boosts anti-Muslim content on his platform X, is endorsing another new party which pledges to reverse migration. Leader of that party, Rupert Lowe, wants to ban burqas. Well, last week, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the billionaire owner of Manchester United, said the UK has been colonised by immigrants. And just as it is in the US, there's been a social media-fueled resurgence of casual racism. There was a big debate in the UK about whether Rishi Sunak is really English. Tommy Robinson's views have been mainstreamed and normalised. Robert Jenrick, one of Nigel Farage's new recruits to reform, was recorded complaining that he hadn't seen another white face while visiting an area where most of the residents are Muslim. All of these things were considered beyond the pale a few years ago. So what's behind it all? Has the UK really lost its culture to radical Islam? Here to debate this, Reform UK's candidate for London Mayor, Leila Cunningham, rapper and activist Loki, Andrew Gold, host of the Heretics podcast, Black Studies professor.
I still can't. It's still messed up that I didn't recognize Andrew Gold. I was like, he looks familiar. I know him, but I can't place it. My goodness, Andrew Gold.
Author of Nobody Can Give You Freedom, Kehinde Andrews, and Cenk Uygur, the founder and host of The Young Turks, an outspoken critic of online Muslim bashing. Okay, let's start with Leila Cunningham, who is a candidate to be Mayor of London. Welcome to Uncensored. We've not had you on before. This narrative, which a lot of American guests of mine, friends of mine, people I know, people I respect. There's a
someone just posted a super chat. I'll get to it here, but he said, "D Wood warned this would happen nearly a decade ago." No, more than a decade ago. In fact, I should go find the clip. but this would have been probably like 2008, maybe. But Nabil and I, so we went to Speaker's Corner, but then we went down this street. There's a street by Speaker's Corner that's like the signs are all in Arabic and so on. We just went down the street filming all the signs. They're like in Arabic. Then we went up to an ATM and it's like it's Sharia compliance listed on there, Sharia compliant banking and stuff like that. And the women are all in burqas and stuff like that. So that was again like 2008. So that's almost 2 decades ago, and it was already bad.
I think Piers Morgan should do an episode where he's like on the street and he just goes into like London or Birmingham or one of these like big cities and see if he can get away with like making the points he's trying to make, but just like, you know, walking in the street as he does it with a camera on him. You know how like that someone like walking down like New York City or something like that, and they like have a camera and they're mic'd up and stuff. He should do that, but he's like, yeah, these guys are complaining about the Muslim takeover, and he's gonna have like 50 Muslims behind him like bowing down to prayer, and he's gonna have signs in like Urdu and Arabic and things like that, and it's just not gonna work. They're gonna think he's filming from Pakistan or something like that. But so he's like, you can't make you can't like make the points he's making and actually believe them if you like actually see like what's going on the ground. So the only way you can believe them is if like you said, he's like living in a mansion in an area where he's like completely cut off to the rest of society.
And that's what's really messed up. The people, their elites who are making their decisions for them and telling people what they're supposed to believe and so on are the people who aren't affected by it. And so they're rich enough to not be impacted by the consequences of their own claims and so on. And that's what's messed up. And that's all over Europe right now. But you have politicians and journalists and so on. They're pulling all these strings. It's the 12-year-old girls who are suffering. And it's not their 12-year-old daughters. Their 12-year-old daughters are going to super expensive, fancy schools and living in mansions and so on. It's other people's 12-year-old daughters who are suffering. And they don't seem to care a whole lot.
Growing narrative that the UK has been invaded by radical Muslims and taken over, and that people like me can barely leave our front door.
No one's
not
saying
like
that.
you.
Yeah, everything is a straw man. It was the same thing he was doing with Gad Saad. Gad Saad's breaking down. Do you see how something can lie dormant for a while, but it's there? It's there, and it's kind of waiting until it becomes a serious, really, really bad problem. Can you acknowledge that, Piers? Well, no, we're not completely dominated by Sharia and so on, and we're not completely Islamic. And straw man, Piers. Your entire show is one straw man every time you deal with this topic.
Because of this radical invasion, which I think is a ridiculous overreach of what the real situation is. But what do you feel it is?
So I think it depends which part of the country you're in, which part of London you're in.
Right there, right? The obvious. It depends on where you are. Yes, if you're in the really rich part, you don't have the same problem. If you're in a different area, huge problem. This isn't rocket science. But, and what's Piers going to say? Oh, no, hang on. So you're saying that all of Great Britain is completely dominated by Sharia? And I don't believe that. I think that's foolish, even though not one person is saying that.
Yeah. And she, mind you, she's actually, she's Egyptian, and she was a police officer in the UK as well. So she got an interesting perspective. So we'll see what she says.
The real question people are asking themselves is who right now sets the cultural norms in certain parts of the country?
Certain parts.
And who adapts to whom? Should it be...
She's already smart. I already like her. These are the first sentences I've seen out of her. She already has massively more common sense than Piers Morgan. We're talking about certain areas, and in those areas, when there's any sort of conflict of ideologies, who backs down from who?
Yep.
Right on the money there. And why is Piers going to keep in mind? This is all before, this is all right before Pierce's discussion with Gad Saad when he didn't understand any of this for some odd reason. Let's see.
What do you feel it is?
So I think it depends which part of the country you're in, which part of London you're in. And I think the real question people are asking themselves is who right now sets the cultural norms in certain parts of the country? and who adapts to whom? Should it be the host nation that adapts to those that arrive, or should it be the new arrivals that adapt? And people feel that as a host nation, we haven't asked new arrivals to adapt. We haven't asked them to assimilate or integrate. And mass immigration has caused rapid demographic change, and that has created certain people, British people, to feel that their way of life has changed in where they live. And, some people say it's racist to notice this, and others say it's authoritarian to forbid discussion about this. But, I say that it's not racist to want to preserve your way of life. It's not racist to want to preserve your values. It's patriotism. You're like, hang on, there's so many people here.
Hang on.
She said it. You're like, hang on.
Town looks completely different. The shops are in a different language. And it's just not, it's not the town I grew up in. And I want it to stop. I don't like it. I don't think there's anything wrong with pointing that out.
Yeah. By the way, I'm actually no, not policeman. I'm actually she's a lawyer. She's a lawyer. So comes from an Egyptian family, obviously British, but she's got like this legal background. So you can hear her perspective already. She's already making a lot more sense than Piers Morgan, and she knows like what happens in countries like Egypt, or and she also knows like what's happening in the legal world as someone who was I don't know if she's still practicing law, but she's a lawyer or something like that.
Look who invited himself in.
I did. I'm sorry.
Has to get attention. Can't not have attention.
I thought this is a really interesting topic, so I just
I bet you
knock on the
did.
door. Good to see you, Jai.
Hey, good to see you, Asa. Nice to see you, man.
Pleasure.
Good to see you. Yeah.
1 second. Hang on. I think I can crop. Oh, okay. I was about to crop you, but yeah, if you just move your camera like a normal person, that works even better. All right. Ready to jump back into this? Resume last video. So who's going to correct this woman?
Loki, welcome back to Uncensored. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, billionaire owner of Manchester United, notwithstanding the fact that I think he's a bit of a hypocrite because he himself is an immigrant to Monaco, where he resides as for tax reasons.
Wait, does Piers think that the issue we're talking about is just immigration? Piers, there are some people who just have a problem with any sort of immigration in general. That's normally not what people are bringing up in all this. Most people, hey, if you are coming to work hard and you're there for a better life and you are coming to the West because you like the West and you love the West and you want to be part of the West and so on, not a lot of people complain about those kinds of immigrants. People generally like those kind of immigrants. It's, hey, we're here to subjugate you and take over eventually, and we're going to keep working until we take it over. The people like Issa here.
And Monaco is like, it's like, I think it's like a third of their population are millionaires. So it's like, oh, he's an immigrant in a country like full of millionaires, like, and that makes him like someone who's like illegally coming into the UK or something like that.
It's
and then
the same thing. What a hypocrite! What a hypocrite! What a hypocrite! This millionaire goes to a place filled with millionaires because it's a millionaire's paradise, and here he is complaining about Sharia and
exactly
and grooming gangs. What a hypocrite! And he himself is an immigrant. It's the same thing. Gosh.
And
he's
also,
like
it has a team in Manchester United where the majority of their starting 11 are economic migrants to the UK.
Oh,
does this guy complain about any sort of migrants or problematic migrants? Because Piers, I guess you would call me a hypocrite if I think some immigrants are fine and others are people that you should not be letting in, right?
Right.
No, hypocrite. Oh, gosh.
So there's hypocrisy there. And I didn't like his comments about Britain being colonized by immigrants. I thought they were crass and inflammatory. But there were some points he was making, notwithstanding, again, that he got some of his facts wrong. But there has been a very large increase in the UK population from the turn of the century to now. Nearly 20 million more people. That has had an inevitable impact on adding huge pressure to our infrastructure and public services. That is unquestionable. And there's been obviously a massive influx of immigrants to the UK in that time as well. So it's understandable that some people are putting all this together and blaming the influx of millions of migrants to the UK. What is your pushback to the people that make that argument?
My pushback is I'm a moron. But I can rap, and that's all that's required for me, people to take me seriously for some reason.
There are 3 points to take into account here, Piers. Number one, people have been disaffected by deindustrialization, by the privatization of key state assets and state functions. They know that their services have essentially been siphoned off to private interest, but they are disaffected by that and then misdirected into diagnosing what exactly the problem is. And on top of that, there is the 20 years of war on terror, which in terms of the essentially billionaire tax haven Epstein class,
this guy is he's like the Ali Dawah and Muhammad Hijab of like politics, it seems. Like he talks just like them, the same accent, and he's making oh boy.
I was waiting. I was like, how long is it going to be before he says Jews or something about Epstein? How long is it going to be? How long is it going to be? Yeah. Chunk yogurt too, guarantee it.
Oh, yeah.
Propaganda against Muslims on an industrial scale. And unfortunately, one of the key individuals in that has been Rupert Murdoch, who himself, according to reports, despite generating billions from the UK, went 11 years without paying corporate tax. But you have to also look further at Christopher Harborne, the key funder of Reform UK, somebody with multiple business interests in the Cayman Islands, in the tax havens of the Channel Islands and others. And what about Jeremy Hoskins?
And any of this have anything to do with anything? This is just like when someone goes, hey, isn't it a problem that your prophet had sex with a 9-year-old and now you've got all these Dawa guys defending it? Like they want this to happen again. Isn't that a problem? What about in Delaware where the law was that you could marry a girl up to... that instant, like, whataboutism, right? What about this? Oh, you're saying this is a problem, but here's a problem, and here's a problem, and here's a problem, and here's a problem, and here's a problem. So let's just, why are we focusing on that problem when there are other problems in the world?
Yeah, it seems like, so not only is Piers like this, but a lot of his guests as well. Like they don't care what the topic is or who the other guests are. They just have something that they want to say, and they just like say whatever it is, no matter what. So he obviously has a list of names and a list of people. He's obviously targeting Layla Cunningham, and he's because Reform UK, and so he's going after her and her party, but that's not what Piers was asking him about. So he obviously had like a set thing, a script he was gonna say, and this is probably gonna be like the most time he gets uninterrupted. So he probably just figured he would get it all out there as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I've seen Loki on Piers Morgan before, and it's the same kind of thing. It's a lot of, like, Piers Morgan asks him questions, and then he kind of answers another question. It's like a straw man. He answers a straw man argument, and that's the problem. It's like, you just answer the question directly. Engage this situation. There's a mass migration. What do you think about that? How does that work? And I know you don't like those people, but that doesn't have to do with mass migration.
And when I grabbed this clip, this Layla, she's not at the end, so she dips at some point. So I'm wondering if she just had to go or if someone ticked her off and she said, I'm done with this, but we'll find out.
Another individual that funds Reform UK, who has business interests, Marathon Asset Management, along with Harborne, is of course based in Jersey, which is a tax haven. When you look at who profits from the railways in this country, they are largely companies based in either other countries or tax havens. So people have been disenfranchised and disaffection is real. However, they have been encouraged by individuals like Murdoch and others to divert all of that energy onto the shoulders of the most vulnerable. Only 0.18% of this country are refugees. If they do have recourse to public funds, which over 1 million people don't, it's £37.50 per week. Who is a bigger burden on the people of this country? Is it a person sitting next to you in the doctor's surgery whose name you can't pronounce, whose borders were defined in the lifetime of your grandparents? Or is it the person selling you the newspapers who is siphoning off the money into a tax haven elsewhere? That is ultimately who is pushing this complete propaganda and fact manipulation. This is not a real reflection of events, as you yourself know.
So just to be clear there, we've got the, the grooming gangs, tens of thousands of young girls. We saw what happened to them. We've got people like Ali Dawah. It's popular mainstream Islam to, hey, as soon as we get power, it's going to be, we're going to be killing apostates and things like that. It's very common to want Sharia blasphemy laws that you can't criticize Islam and so on. This is very popular, very common stuff. When ISIS said, hey, we're the new caliphate, tons of people from Great Britain went down to join with them and fight for them. Young men and young women, teenage girls and stuff are going down there to be the brides of ISIS jihadis and so on.
Yep.
That would seem to be some kind of issue, but you heard it from Low Key here. Nope, it's just people. It's just people who are, got their money in tax havens and so on. They just want you to think there's a problem, but there's no actual problem. Just so you know, not with any of these Dawah guys or jihadis or anything.
My response to that would be, I'm not questioning the validity of your criticism of billionaires. That's fine, but it's not really going to the heart of what my question was, which is whether Jim Ratcliffe, when he said that this country has had an unsustainable influx of migrants coming into the country, both legally and illegally, which has made the population massively higher, put huge burden onto our public services, but also led to a lot of, I would say, unrest in parts of Britain where there is a sense that the culture of individual towns or cities has been completely changed by the influx of migrants. And, all these things can be true at the same time. So in relation, just before I move to the rest of the panel, in relation to those points that he made, would you concede that we've allowed too many people to come in?
Only 1% of the land in this country is used for house building. There is about 1 in every 65 people in London who is homeless. You're right, there is a strain on public services, and that's because austerity, which has been a bipartisan orthodoxy, a necro-political bipartisan orthodoxy, is believed to have led to the deaths, the preventable deaths.
Hey, Issa. Issa, this is reminding me again, because I wasn't making the connection, but when you pointed out the In Living Color sketch with Damon Wayans playing the Nation of Islam guy, and he just used a bunch of big words because he thought it sounded impressive to people. That's what Low Key sounds like.
That's what I was saying with like Muhammad. Muhammad Hijabi, he gets like his dad's thesaurus, and he just like gets all these words. That's exactly what I thought of when I heard this guy. This is my first time hearing him, by the way.
Yeah. Hey, Jai, you be Pierce and go ahead and ask me a question, and I'll be Low Key.
Okay. Do you think we have a problem in this country with illegal immigration?
Well, as I was pointing out, the conglomeration of the hypotenuse will differentiate the parallelogram anytime the consanguinity doesn't emulate the ordinary effervescence. Therefore, the eccentricity of the aggregation will transubstantiate the perpendicular and subliminate the perspicacity of the consequences, Pierce. And that's my position. And all his fans, oh my goodness, he's so smart and so brilliant. Oh, he destroyed Pierce.
Wow. Yeah.
Of at least 130,000 people. That's according to Danny Dorling of Oxford University. So yes, there's a strain on public services.
What's that?
You got to quote a bunch of people too, and sound like
Oh yeah.
I might not know what I'm talking about, but this guy.
Yes, and Professor Uppingforth. I mean, he's defended all of this, and everyone knows this.
Yeah.
And the emperor's clothes are beautiful.
Certainly not because of people getting £37.50 per week or people that have no recourse to public funds. It is because there has been a death by 1,000 cuts mentality practiced towards public services. And people have that perception because they've been propagandized with it on a daily basis by a media which is almost pogrom pushing, Piers.
Are you kidding me? The British media?
He said program pushing. Program
yeah.
pushing. Wow.
Yeah, the British media, who still, if you say one word about Islam, you're a racist, Islamophobic, hate-mongering bigot, and they still complain, oh, we're poor victims, we're poor victims. Okay, please get past this guy and like to hear some of the... I'd even rather hear Chunk Yogurt over this guy, man.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be like a competition of like
he's at
who's
least fun to watch, man.
Yeah, exactly. He's got that going for him.
Yeah, so Chunk Yogurt will be more entertaining. Andrew Gold will have way more common sense and make way more sense. And I don't know about the guy in the bottom middle, but we'll see.
Be honest with you. It's a miracle that more people haven't been attacked and harmed in the streets with the level of propaganda that people are subject to in this country.
Yes, with all the propaganda against us, it's a miracle that people aren't being completely exterminated. You have Dawa guys openly saying they're going to kill apostates. They're taking over Great Britain and so on. That's not the problem.
Wow. It's like, it reminds me of, what was it, last year maybe a year and a half ago, when that stabbing happened, and what was it called, Southport or something? I can't remember what part of the UK it was, but that caused like this huge like set of riots that just you'd have like the Muslims rioting, and then you'd have like the what do you call them, nationalists rioting, and it was just like they would all like just keep doing it back and forth. But the Muslims, they were always like the violent like provocateurs and things like that. And so he's like saying he's shocked that it's not the case that you don't have more like British people going, or like white people going out and just like attacking Muslims. But when you see like when these riots are happening, it's like, yeah, you do have sometimes when like rioters that are British nationalists, they do get out of hand and they do things that are that we wouldn't support as Christians. But it's the Muslims, those are always the ones that are going way over the top, like throwing bricks at like police cars and things like that, and like they were like setting the cities on fire, like it was just like stuff was just getting run down, stores were getting robbed. And it was just happening like day after day after day. It was like a thing just constantly happening. And of course, I think they blamed like Tommy Robinson for it or something like that. Or they also blamed Andrew Tate for it too. But he's just living in opposite land, because it's not the case. It's not surprising that what he's saying, oh, it's surprising that we don't see more people attacking Muslims. No, the surprise is all the attacks not happening from the Muslim side. Like that's a surprising thing, because when you have that many people in the street doing these type of violent riots, you start realizing like, wait a minute. So it's not just like this small minority. It's like maybe like a small minority was willing to start it, but there's a bunch of people who are willing to get into it and willing to, just participate in these riots and stuff like that.
And I have to say, when someone does become violent against Muslims, and I'm sure you'll be seeing that, but that seems to usually be the consequence of people like believing that the system doesn't work and that their politicians are against them and are trying to destroy them. And it's just like they give up on the system. I'm saying that because that's what Anders Breivik was like in Norway, because I went through his manifesto and stuff, like 1,500 pages, insane. But he was saying like he in the 1980s came to see Islam as a problem just based on seeing how Muslims in certain areas were treating the non-Muslims and stuff, and how Muslim kids were treating non-Muslim kids and stuff, bullying them and so on. He said he came to see it as a problem, but then he wanted to see if it's in the sources. So he said he read the Quran, was going through the Hadith, and saw, oh, there are actually some problems in this ideology. And he said he wanted to go in a political direction and become a politician to deal with it. And he says, and he realized it's a complete waste of time. If you disagree with anyone on anything, they just start screaming that you're a racist. And then after that, no one has to listen to you. And so he decided that he said he got the idea from Al-Qaeda that deadly shock attacks that kill lots of people, that's what gets your message heard. So I'm just looking at that. That is someone who gave up on speech. That is someone who gave up on any peaceful way of dealing with issues and stuff. And so it seems like when people are like, hey, I have to use violence to deal with this problem, it's because I don't think anything else works anymore. Now, keep in mind, we're not like that. We believe in discussing these things and making our points and refuting terrible arguments and things like that and exposing bad ideologies. But you will, as time proceeds, you'll have more people just saying, there's no point. There's no point in talking about this anymore. I just have to get violent, and you're going to get violence. And it's like, why? Because you won't actually let anyone have an honest discussion about this stuff without screaming racist and so on, and then they give up on the system. So you might want to let people actually discuss it.
Gold, I live in West London, in an area which has a lot of rich people, a lot of very poor people.
Of course.
And I walk up and down my local high street. It's incredibly multicultural. Pretty much every store, every hairdressers or dry cleaners or restaurant, whatever, is manned and owned and staffed by people from all over the world. It's an extraordinary place to live, and I love it. I don't recognize the depiction of the part of London I'm in as being overrun by radical Muslims. In fact, the opposite. Now, I accept there are parts of the country which are predominantly Muslim in terms of population demographic, and that people who may live there who are not Muslim feel like things have changed very fast and not necessarily in the way they feel comfortable with. I accept I don't necessarily live in one of those places.
No, at least you admit
but this
that.
idea that we've been overrun by radical Muslims, as Megyn Kelly put it, I do think is a massively wild exaggeration that is not, to me, bearing a relevance to reality.
No, I don't know if we've been overrun by radical Muslims. That might be a bit strong. If we continue the way we're going, that probably will happen. I mean, we just have to look at historical precedent of what happened.
Notice everyone keeps pointing out the same thing. It's the trajectory. It's what Gad Saad pointed out. It's what Andrew, it's like, okay, here's where we were 20 years ago. Here's where we are now. You can do the math. Oh, this is where things are heading. And people warn him, hey, this is where things are heading. And then Pierce, so you're saying we're completely dominated by Sharia right now, and I don't see it.
Iran, Afghanistan, Lebanon, once it starts, it's unlikely to stop. I think those who are not concerned about Islam simply don't understand what Islam is. They don't understand extreme religion. I'm a Jewish person, I grew up, and I know what the Hasidic Jewish community are like.
Shouldn't have told that to Chunk and Loki. Now you're in trouble, buddy.
I know that they are, in many cases, a law unto themselves. But they're a tiny, tiny proportion of the country. If there were 5 or 6 million of them and they were having more and more children, bringing more and more people into this country, I think we'd all have a huge problem with that. Now, when these people come into this country and have an entirely different culture to our own, and then they are encouraged not to adopt ours, but in the name of multiculturalism to celebrate their own, then they're going to bring their culture with them. And that means, just like in the 50 to 55 countries that are Islamic, there is no homosexuality. Maybe in 1 or 2 it's kind of allowed, but it's frowned upon. Women are treated as second-class citizens. Loki made the point about it being a miracle that more Muslims aren't attacked on the streets. Well, we are seeing Jews attacked on the streets day after day. We even had a Little Britain guy was just screamed at on the street. That is literally happening day after day after day. We get people from places like Pakistan. We get tens and tens of thousands from Pakistan. According to Pew Research, the percentage of people in Pakistan who dislike Jews or have unfavorable views of Jews is 99%. So Jewish families that I know, they take down any identifying features that show they're Jewish. That cannot be, that is not the Britain that I grew up in. That is not the Britain of the 90s and the 80s. This is we're headed for trouble right now. And unless we...
What are you saying?
There was something I saw, like a clip on X, and one of these, like, I think it was like one of these guys who, like, he does like these like tourist YouTube channels or something like that, like one of these like traveling channels. And he was in Pakistan, I think, and he said he was from Germany. And then they just started going like crazy with just like how much they loved Hitler and how much they loved like Nazis. And he was like shocked because, you know, I mean, obviously, but like, especially for Germans, they're like way like, you know, they're like, they never hear anyone saying anything positive about, you know, about Hitler, rightly so. They shouldn't hear, we don't want to hear, we don't want to hear that, but he was in a country way, way far away from Germany, and he wasn't hearing it in German, he was hearing it in English from like some, you know, Pakistani guys, and they were just like praising Hitler right in front of them. So yeah, what he's saying is true, that this guy was just like buying some like some Pakistani, you know, food on the street, like some street food. I think he was like reviewing this food or something like that, and they just said, "Where are you from?" And that like sparked this, I mean, this like huge like viral clip just because he said he's from Germany. So he's right. So if you're hating, you know, it's like kind of like, you know, marrying your cousins. It's like how popular it is in Pakistan, and then you bring that same culture to the UK, and then you have the NHS, you know, writing a letter talking about, oh, you know, there's pros to cousin marriage. They didn't call it cousin marriage, but they use like the technical term, and they're like saying how it's like it adds to like family values, and you know, it adds to all these things, and then they had to retract it afterwards. But the NHS actually issued a statement like saying like, you know, basically cousin marriage is great because it adds like family values, home values, and all these other things. So what he's saying is like, you know, you bring this culture, which is the norm in Pakistan, and you bring it over to the UK, and you don't change it at all, well, you're going to have those same problems you have in Pakistan over in the UK, and they need to be addressed, because you can't have a bunch of people that are like, you know, that are like praising Hitler, or a bunch of people that are pro cousin marriage, and you know, like, just, it's going to destroy, you know, it's going to destroy themselves. They're going to destroy themselves, and then they're going to destroy whatever they get their hands on.
Cannot be that is not the Britain that I grew up in. That is not the Britain of the 90s and the 80s. This is we're headed for trouble right now. And unless we stop this now, unless people start taking it seriously, then things are going to get progressively worse, and people are going to have to leave not just this country, but Europe.
Isn't it interesting how everyone who has common sense is all saying the same thing that Pierce doesn't seem to get, right? He just said, hey, if we don't deal with this now, then it becomes something that's either you can't deal with, or it becomes massively more difficult to deal with. Why would you not deal with it when you still have some ability to deal with it without, you know, it being this epic bloodbath or something like that? No, what I'm saying is that people are saying that we've been completely overrun and that we're all under control of Sharia, and I just don't see it when I walk down the street.
Yeah. Well, let's go to Cenk Uygur, who's across the pond.
There we go.
You know,
hey, look. Chunk's already grinning.
Very striking to me that.
And Chunk usually for his first response is pretty level-headed normally. Okay, here's what we need to look at. Here's what we need to look at. And of course he's going to he's got to bring Jews. He's got to bring. He also but he definitely has to bring in Jews, Israel, or Epstein, definitely, or all of them.
You know, Elon Musk just in recent months has posted on X.
Wait, was that you, Isa? I couldn't tell who was speaking.
I'm sorry.
Because I see 6 people on the screen and then us, and so when I hear a voice, I was like, I don't know if it's one of them who said it or. Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, I had a question about Andrew Gold. He was talking about the Jewish community in the UK, and I was curious about what Jai felt about this too, because I remember that Mohammed Hijab, I saw some video where he was basically like harassing and yelling at Jews walking down the street. He's like, wow, all the Jews. And I was like, it was kind of horrific. I was like, this isn't like what you think would happen in real life. It's something like from a horror movie, like The Purge or something. This isn't like what you think normal humans will do. So I don't know if that was true or if I misunderstood that, but that's what I thought I saw.
Yeah, that is what happened. And they also had like a van that had a monitor or like a TV screen on it, and it was showing images of there was at least one image that I remember seeing of the Holocaust, and that's what came up in the defamation case that Mohammed Hijab filed against what was his name, Douglas Murray, and that was the situation where he was going around to a Jewish area in London, and he was basically, they try to hide their hatred for Jews by saying they're against Zionism. They're saying they're Zionists. But when you put images of the Holocaust, you're not talking about Zionists. You're talking about Jews. So that's what I think. That's one of the things that the judge used to rule. No, that was valid.
It was the pictures, and then he had to say, "Oh, I had no idea what images were being put up on this giant thing behind me that were, they're just rotating through them over and over again. But I had no idea what images were back there."
Yeah, and there was one famous scene, like a clip where there's this Jewish guy who had a dog, And Muhammad Hijab was like, if we feel intimidated by their dogs, then we're going to kill their dogs. And that became a big thing. He threatened to kill the Jewish or Zionist dogs, even though it was just one guy who had a very well controlled, like tame dog, like in between his legs, like it was in between the Jewish guy's legs, so he was like well trained. And Muhammad Hijab was basically just threatening that he was going to kill the guy's dog because he was claiming he felt intimidated, but he was just trying to scare the guy and say, look, you come near us, we're gonna, even though it was him approaching him, it was Muhammad Hijab approaching the Jewish people. So you that was correct. What you saw, that's true. And it's happening in the UK. It's happening, like Andrew said, it happens. It's not like infrequent where you have these attack on Jews, and that was one example with Muhammad Hijab.
Civil war in Britain is inevitable. That's had 58 million views. When reposting a graph showing foreign national sex crime arrest rates, Musk commented, "The rape of Britain. Remember to drop a white feather for the cowards who failed to stop this." Again, if the current British government is not on the side of the people of Britain, then are they, by definition, traitors? And so on and so on. Very highly charged, inflammatory language. And again, a lot of mythology about this. For example, Musk is right to say the grooming gang scandal in the UK was an absolute disgrace, particularly in relation to Rotherham and Telford, where thousands of predominantly young white English girls were sexually abused and raped by largely, in these particular scandals, British Pakistani Muslim men. That's undeniable. But if you actually look at the wider percentage in terms of the whole country, you would find, according to the police and the Crown Prosecution Service, that if you look at 2024, for example, for all serious indictable offences, including rape, 83% were committed by white people, 7% by black people, 6% by Asians. The majority of child exploitation, sexual exploitation suspects, 83%, and victims, 85%, were white. Data from 2024 indicated that only 3.9% of group-based abusers were of Pakistani heritage, 85% were white. Now, statistics can tell myriad stories, but I think the point I would make in telling you those figures is that if you listen to some people across the pond, there's a sense that, all the sexual abuse in the country is being perpetrated by Pakistani Muslim men. That's simply not true. We've had some disgusting scandals which were terribly badly handled. I have to say, I've never heard that before. Covered up by governments and authorities who...
It seems like not all the time, but at least half the time when Pierce says, here's the claim that's being made, it's like something I've never heard before. It's a straw man of what people are actually saying. Like people are saying, here's this problem, but he'll like exaggerate what people are actually saying and then respond to the massive exaggeration and so on. Anyway, come on, Chunk, you got to tell us who is really to blame for all of this and who's actually manipulating us. You got to basically say what Loki was trying to say, but in a way that people can actually understand it.
Yeah. I want to just I haven't seen this at all, but I want to make a prediction that I think that Chunk has his eyes on someone. It's obviously either, Andrew or Layla, but I think he's going to make it personal with one of them. Yeah. I think he's going to make it personal with one of them because from what I've seen from him, he just always does that. It's like Muhammad Hijab again. Like he makes it super personal and he's directed at like one of the guests, but we'll see.
I'm sorry. I just had a flashback of some stupid stuff because he brought up Beatles earlier. That's how my dumb mind works. Because her name's Layla. And then I sang a little clip from the song. And then like earlier, Piers Morgan's going, the country of the Beatles, the Beatles.
Yeah,
it was just
and the Beatles.
It was just the sickest, most insane burn, but not in a good sense. You like, oh, I burned, no burn, like super mean sense. But anyway, you had George Harrison. His wife or girlfriend was this model, and Eric Clapton wanted her. And she eventually left George Harrison of the Beatles to go with Eric Clapton. And he wrote the song Layla about her. That's when she was still with George Harrison. She heard this song. She's like, oh, this about me, huh? And so anyway, she went with Eric Clapton. That song was about her. And then after she was with Eric Clapton, that's when he wrote that song, You Look Wonderful Tonight, and so on. Anyway, so Eric Clapton stole this dude's wife or girlfriend or whoever it was. Anyway, when the Beatles were having some problems and arguments and stuff, George Harrison walks up to the table, and it was Paul McCartney and John Lennon there, and they're normally the ones who are fighting with each other. But George Harrison walks up. It's in a restaurant, and it's Paul McCartney and John Lennon. He's like, "What? I guess we're just should be finished then. I guess I'm just leaving." He starts walking away, and John Lennon yells, "Yeah, we'll just get Eric Clapton." And I was like, dang, that is like I don't understand how you would function as a band. It's like, oh, it makes sense that they split up if that's the type of thing they would say to each other. Like, your girl left you for Eric Clapton, and you say you're leaving the band. And when we say, oh, we'll get Eric Clapton, that's messed up, man. Messed up. It's a messed up thing to say, Pierce, bringing the Beatles in when you know Layla's here. What the heck's wrong with you, man? Anyway, I apologize, everyone. That's just how my stupid brain works when I'm watching something.
Memory association and all that stuff, yeah.
Who thought it was too racially incendiary to reveal who was perpetrating them. But that doesn't mean that Britain is awash with these people perpetrating these crimes on a gigantic scale across the country. So there's a lot going on here. But my overriding sense, living mostly in the UK, is that this characterization is false. What do you make of it?
Here we go. Who's really responsible?
Yeah. So look, almost all of our corporate media, pundits that are in the establishment media, our politicians, etc., do propaganda, and this is
for Israel.
Propaganda
for
now,
Jews.
Let me explain why.
Because Jews.
They say, "Oh my God, we might have a Muslim takeover of our countries." Israel's already taken over all of our governments.
Yeah,
and it's not just Israel. Big Pharma, to Loki's point, all the donor class, the Epstein class, they've all taken over our governments. They've certainly taken over the American government, the British government. The Irish seem to be free, thank God for that. And then they go, "It's the Muslims." I mean, it's almost comical. It's comical. And then we're talking about, grooming gangs going after kids or whatever. Oh, that comes out just as everyone's talking about the Epstein files and how a bunch of pro-Israeli figures raped American girls. Oh, it's the Muslims. It's the Muslims. So next time you hear it's the Muslims, I guarantee you that it's Israeli propaganda trying to divert you from something that's in the news now. And everything is constantly subverted and inverted, right? So, Israel has a right to exist.
Look at Layla up there. She's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wait, Palestinians don't.
David, you got bingo. You said Israel, Epstein, Zionist. They were all there. You got the bingo.
Yep.
That's a bingo. Well, it's just, I mean, he always does that. And it's just, you can tie it to anything you don't like or anything that anyone says that you have a problem with. It's just a cheap way to, Jews are behind, Mossad, or it's to distract from Epstein and so on. I think, but where he's correct is that this issue of the grooming gangs and so on seems to arise periodically and so on. But as far as I could tell, the reason that it just came out now was once the files were released, the Epstein files and so on actually came out, everyone's going, you had tons of Muslims. Almost every Muslim account I saw was going, you see, you were criticizing our prophet when look at you, you're all pedos. So this is the real reason. And then people started responding by bringing up the grooming gangs. It's like, wait a minute. What are you doing? Condemning all this when you guys weren't saying anything about what's going on over here. And so that seems like that was the connection. It's Muslims started using Epstein files to say, how dare you guys criticize anything having to do with the grooming gangs and with Muhammad and so on, when you have this big issue over here, not realizing, we are completely capable of condemning both. We can condemn all the Epstein stuff and the grooming gangs and Muhammad. We can do all of that. We're not saying, I'm not aware of anyone saying, all the Epstein stuff's good and we don't have a problem with any of that. I don't know anyone who's saying that, right? So, yeah, we're capable of having a huge problem with that and thinking that's sick, evil stuff and thinking this is also sick, evil stuff and that all of it should be condemned. But apparently you're just not allowed to do that. And they live in some world where we all think that Epstein, all that stuff should not be condemned. And again, I don't know anyone who's saying that.
Palestine doesn't exist. Israel does exist. Everything in our media is utter propaganda on behalf of Israel. So I warn you about all of these topics. It's to try to drive up hatred against Muslims, against...
I didn't think it was going to, Isa, I didn't think he was going to do all of it. I was like, okay, he's either going to go here or here or here. And he's like, nope, all of it. It's kind of funny.
And it's weird because I'm sorry, I'm making a little deviation, but we talked about this before. Every Islamic...
You're apologizing for making a deviation when I just told a 3-hour story about George Harrison. You do not need to apologize. Detour all you want. I cannot criticize derailing at this point.
Thank you. I like Eleanor Rigby, by the way. It's one of my favorite songs. But the thing that I thought was strange was... like I was looking at the Muslim debaters, every single one of the debaters, like from the last debate con and on, and every single one, they had to make an aside about Israel and Palestine. And I'm like, you're not talking about Israel. You're talking about, is Islam true? Is Jesus a Muslim? Nothing to do with Israel, but every single one, there had to be some aside to Israel. Like Hassan Shibli was like, the guy was asking tough questions about Islamic stuff. They were tough. And I think an honest debater would be like, yeah, these are tough topics. These are difficult. We have to engage them fairly. But instead, he was like, you have been deceived. You've been deceived by Epstein. And no, you've been deceived by Adelson. Sheldon Adelson's propaganda got you. And, Israel's spending $5 million to destroy Islam. And I'm like, you do know that Islam is a practiced religion within Israel, and people who are officials in the army and the IDF are Muslim. So I'm like, this doesn't even make sense on a logical position, but it's like, it's like a anti-Israel Tourette's. It's insane. It's crazy, but I'm seeing it here. It's the same type of thing every single time. We've got to talk about Israel. We've got to talk about Palestine. And I'm like, are you going to hold accountability of what's happening in Sudan? What's happening in Syria? Do you know how many tens of thousands of people are dying in Syria? No one talks about that. And the guy, Hassan Shibli, is Syrian. He's not talking about that. If Muslims do horrible, horrendous crimes, are you going to talk about that? I think an honest person who's accountable. And if you want to critique Israel, fine. But then critique these other places too. Be the same Amnesty International for all these places. Talk about Sudan. Talk about Somalia. Talk about Chad. Talk about Pakistan. Talk about all these places. But it's radio silent. No one boycotts any of these countries. They just say, oh, I'm a peacock. I'm an ostrich. My head's in the ground. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. And that bothers me. It's so dishonest and it's grotesque. It's grotesque.
You're muted, David. Sorry, I thought that was me the whole time I was trying to fix my headphones. Then I saw the chat saying
I didn't hear it either.
I was like, do I have to refresh the page and come back? Because I was having sound issues on the previous stream, but it was actually, you were muted. Okay.
You guys just let me talk for 45 minutes. 45 minutes.
No, I'm sitting here trying to troubleshoot my headphones. I was like,
Yeah, me too. I wasn't sure. I thought I was like, is this just me or,
And I'm sitting here thinking, should I repeat myself? But then thinking, do you all deserve to hear what I had to say when you just let me talk pointlessly for 45 minutes? Hey, one night, this was years ago, but it was in the middle of the night when I would stay up with my sons, and I just like, hey, I'm just sitting here for hours. Let me just go live. But I was talking, I was probably talking for like 40 minutes one time, and I was muted the entire time, but I just wasn't looking at the chat. I'm sitting here talking about all this stuff, and I finally see it. Yeah, classic. What were we talking about?
He said that was. I think you might have been carrying off of something that he said.
We were talking about like the human rights violations that happen in all these other countries.
No. Oh, hang on here. Yeah. So Daniel Hakikachu, in our debate, he wanted to debate something with Zionism, but it was a Christian apologetics conference. So I said, hey, we should be doing Christian apologetics. And so he suggested the topic, Christianity or Islam, which respects Jesus more. And so I agreed that's a good Christian apologetics topic. And then he just complained about Israel the entire time. He made his entire case about Israel and Jews.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the real reason you're there. That's the only real reason you're debating, is that you don't actually care about the topic that you suggested and you agreed to and so on. But then just on Friday, when we went to Times Square and you had the Muslim prayer show there. But afterwards, when people came up, it's like, why are you sucking Israel's balls? And so on. And that's what it was afterwards. And it's one-track minds, man. One-track minds.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with Israel.
Yeah, I'm like, this is a serious topic that is of concern to tons of people. Islam in the UK. What's the problem and what needs to be done to address the problem? If your first response is the Jews, all right, I'm not taking you seriously.
Yeah.
But
and what's interesting about this whole thing is that, like, if you talk to your average Israeli, they understand that there's like problems with terrorism and terrorists, but in their minds they're like, these guys are just like radical Muslims or something like that. But they don't actually see Islam as a problem. They think that there's problems amongst like certain Muslims, but they don't see Islam as the problem, and that's like just a common Israeli view. And so
that was the most common view we saw when we were there.
Yeah, exactly, right. So you experienced that, but you think that would, like, based on what you hear from people like Chunk Yogurt and others, that like every single Israeli is just going to be like, we hate Islam, we don't want it, like most like Islamophobic people or whatever. But in reality, they're not. they're not actually like anti-Islam. They're just against like certain people who want to kill them, and so they're against like groups that are like designated to killing Jews. But when it comes to Islam as a religion, they don't actually have a problem with Islam for the most part. So what he's saying is actually not true. There's not like a campaign, an Israeli campaign, that's just like trying to turn everybody against like Islam or Muslims as a whole. Because like Issa was saying, there's lots of Muslims who serve in the IDF. There's Muslims who serve in high places in Israeli parliament. So this is just a complete myth that Chunk Yogurt is propagating.
But the weird part is like, it's like how do I put this? What he's accusing other people of doing with Muslims is what he does, but with Jews. You know what I mean? It's anytime there's a problem, guess what? There are problems with Islam, but you can't just point to any problem and then start freaking out and saying it's the Muslims, right? They're like, what's the actual, is there a real connection? Is Islam causing the problem? If not, why you bringing up Muslims or Islam if a problem comes up and you're talking about a problem and you just want to, there are people who might just want to divert the issue over towards Muslims and so on. But Cenk would notice that, and yet instantly he'll just do the exact same thing with Jews. Oh, there's some issue and stuff like that. Well, what about the Jews? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the Jews want you to think that's a problem because they're trying to distract you from them controlling Hollywood, that sort of thing. All right, let's let Chunk finish here.
Immigrants. Now, if you're in Europe, to address some of the points here, and you say, hey, you know what, I want Germany just for the Germans or the French just for the French. I'm not German or French, that's your business, okay? But I'm an American, and in America, we believe in equality. That's the core thesis of this country. And the country is made up of almost nothing but immigrants, Jewish immigrants, Muslim immigrants, Italian, Irish, and we made we become the #1 country in the world because of that diversity and that equality. And the pro-Israel forces that control our government hate that. They're like, no, don't let any more Muslims in. And if they criticize Israel, arrest them, take away their liberties. Now they got a religious liberty commission that's taking away religious liberty if you criticize Israel. I mean, it is over the top absurd. And if you say, hey, wait, I'm concerned about a lot of Muslims in Britain. Okay, maybe I believe you if that seems to be your concern. But wait a minute, they say the same thing about America, and there's barely any Muslims in America. So that's how you could tell it's propaganda, because it's not really related to the facts. It's related to news events around Israel. Whenever Israel's in the news in a bad way, you'll see a whole heap of people attacking Muslims in UK, US, and everywhere else as if they're the real problem. Muslims in the West have almost no power. People who support Israel have nearly infinite power. These are obvious facts.
Wow. Okay, I think he definitely takes the award for. I mean, he's definitely more entertaining than was it Loki? But I think he's definitely took the award for saying the most like stupid things. I wasn't sure who was going to get that award, either him or Loki, but he definitely got it.
Yeah, just think it's it's all the politicians and all the journalists, and they're trying to attack us. Those are all the people who do nothing but defend Islam and accuse anyone who disagrees with anything in Islam, accuse them of Islamophobia and racism and bigotry and so on. But these are the people who are doing the work of the Jews in order to attack Islam and divert attention to Islam. Pretty stupid. And he even said Israel has almost infinite power and Muslims just have no power. Like, okay, well, why is everyone bending over backwards to placate them in every situation?
Yeah.
Okay, Kehinde Andrews.
Let's just go ahead and stop real quick. Now let's let this guy talk. We haven't heard this guy yet. This is the only one we haven't heard so far. We'll hear what he says because I have no idea who this guy is.
A lot to unpack there from Cenk. And I'll come back to you later in a moment because you are a practicing Muslim, which is interesting given your
Layla
perspective on this.
Interesting.
Didn't know that. I knew she was Egyptian. I didn't know she was a practicing. Well, he's a practicing Muslim. She's not wearing like a head covering, but interesting. Okay.
Well, neither's Lily J. So.
Kehinde, in answer to Cenk's point, I would make this point.
Where have you been, Jai? Women don't have to follow those rules anymore. Come on.
Yeah. Well,
not in the West. Not in the West.
Yeah. Is she practicing Muslim? I don't know.
Yeah,
she's a propagandist for sure, but yeah. Lily
and
J,
I say this without any comment about it, other than it's just a statistical fact. Britain has pretty much the same number of Muslims as the United States, despite having a population of 67, 68 million to America's 340 million. So we have a significantly higher percentage of the population is Muslim and is rising pretty rapidly, actually. There's no doubting the statistical reality of that.
I thought he wasn't going to qualify it and just leave it unqualified, and he wasn't going to do per capita, but he actually, I thought he was going to just leave it at that. Like, oh yeah, we have the same amount of Muslims. Yeah, and just leave it there.
Is that a cause for pause, for concern? Would you be comfortable if Britain became, for example, a majority Muslim country in 40, 50 years' time? Do you understand why, white Christians in Britain are fearful of that prospect because they feel it's going against what the inherent culture of the country is?
No, I mean, I think we have to really understand the history here. Why does Britain have a large Muslim population? As we said, countries like Pakistan, which were part of the British Empire, one of the biggest problems we have in this discussion is that actually Britain was never this little island. Britain was the largest empire that's ever existed in the entire world, and we are here because you were there. This is why Pakistani people come here. This is why there's a large Muslim population. And so when you talk about what Britain is, the fact is the Caribbean, Africa, Asia actually massively contributed to what Britain is anyway. So it's frankly ahistorical to just say, well, look, they're coming in with these different values. Because I promise you, these values have been part of the nation since before people migrated here. I would also say, if you actually look at the evidence, I mean, it is frankly ridiculous to suggest that Britain is going to be majority Muslim at any point. That is not going to happen. What you actually find is you have high levels of concentration of minorities in particular areas. And the reason why areas, I mean, I live in Birmingham, the place where Robert Jenrick came around and said, oh, there's so many Muslims. Actually, most of the people in Handsworth are not Muslim. It's massively diverse. You find very few areas in the United Kingdom which are 100% Muslim. The only areas, in fact, you'll find in the United Kingdom which have more than 100,000 people and are one ethnic group is white British people, because most of the country is white British people. The reason that areas like Handsworth and inner cities are so diverse is something called white flight. When I moved into my neighborhood, there were loads of white people. When we move in, they move out. And then we all live in mostly concentrated poverty in inner cities, and then people complain about how the country's changed. It's completely ridiculous, fabricated, nonsensical, and it is all just driven by, like Loki said, this is about the actual reason you can't get a doctor's appointment is because they changed the tax rules so that billionaires are taking all your money. There have been lots of immigration over the last 20 years, but the GDP has gone up because of that immigration. We have more money in the country because of immigration. The problem is the mosques, the people like that, the Tim Ratcliffes, the Farages, you probably peers as well, benefit from these tax loopholes, which mean that now the things are underfunded. Complete nonsense. The whole point of this is to misdirect from the fact that it's actually the rich, maybe Israel in some extent, but certainly the rich are actually taking it, and you just blame it on immigrants.
There we go. So he's with Loki. He's with Loki on that one. It's all the rich people. It's all the rich people trying to divert attention from the fact that by being rich and having all these billions of dollars, there's a real problem. And so they blame Islam. And then with Chunk Yogurt, it's Israel and all the people who are in the Epstein files who are diverting attention. So I guess at the end of the day, there's just no real problem at all with any of these guys who are calling for Sharia or saying they're going to execute apostates, all the things that they say they're going to do as the Muslim population becomes stronger and so on. No problem there. It's all smokescreen. So we got three people who are basically on the same page that it's all a kind of illusion. And then I guess Layla and Andrew Gold are the people who actually think there's some sort of issue here.
I just have to say, this guy has an extremely weird accent. He's got some mix of accents, but there's something that he can say that we can all fact check him on. Could you go back to like the beginning of his speech? I'm almost certain he says, I just want to hear it again. But is he saying that Handsworth, which is in Birmingham, is not Muslim majority? Is that what he just said? I just want to be sure if that's what he said.
Handsworth. The culture of the country is.
No, I mean, I think we have to really understand the history here. Why does Britain have a large Muslim population? As we said, countries like Pakistan, which were part of the British Empire, one of the biggest problems we have in this discussion is that actually Britain was never this little island. Britain was the largest empire that's ever existed in the entire world, and we are here because you were there. This is why Pakistani people come here. This is why there's a large Muslim population. And so when you talk about what Britain is, the fact is the Caribbean, Africa, Asia actually massively contributed to what Britain is anyway. So it's frankly ahistorical to just say, well, look, they're coming in with these different values. Because I promise you, these values have been part of the nation since before people migrated here. I would also say, if you actually look at the evidence, I mean, it is frankly ridiculous to suggest that Britain is going to be majority Muslim at any point. That is not going to happen. What you actually find is you have high levels of concentration of minorities in particular areas. And the reason why areas, I mean, I live in Birmingham, the place where Robert Jenrick came around and said, oh, there's so many Muslims. Actually, most of the people in Handsworth are not Muslim. It's massively diverse.
Right there.
There it is.
That's what he just said. Right? The majority of people in Handsworth are not Muslim. Anyone can Google this right now. Fact check them right now. It's like 60 to 70% of Handsworth that's Muslim. So he says he lives there, but this is also like a talking point. Like, I don't know if he's a regular guest on Piers Morgan, but if he's not, and I think they say some sort of professor or something like that, or some sort of studies teacher or something like whatever. So he has a prepared speech that he came on to Piers Morgan with, and one of the things that he says in his opening is something that every single one of you can fact check right now. Just type in online, is Handsworth a Muslim majority area in Birmingham? Anyone can look that up. It's 60 to 70% that's Muslim. He's saying it's not the case. So one of his prepared things that he came in to say is 100% wrong. Everyone can fact check that right now. So you have to think, okay, I mean, what other things is this guy going to say that Yeah. Someone saying Birmingham, Alabama. Is that the one he's talking about? Yeah.
In his defense, Jai, you're criticizing him for coming with a prepared spiel, but in his defense, that's exactly what Piers did for this. He was mad about Megyn Kelly and a couple other people, and so that's what he did with Gad Saad. So I have to say, if I were going on Piers Morgan, knowing that he's just going to talk about whatever he's mad about at the point and just it has no connection to anything I'm saying, I would probably just say, okay, here's what I want to talk about, and who cares what Piers brings up? I'm just going to say this. So
yeah, but he's factually incorrect. He's saying
if you want to say he's factually incorrect, you can. That could be a fair point. But as far as just, hey, I'm just going to say whatever I came to say, and who cares how it's connected to anyone? That's what everyone should do from this point on with Piers Morgan. Just whatever you want to talk about, everyone, you talk about that.
No, I agree with that. I mean, that's what the Loki did as well, or whatever his name is. He did the same thing.
Smart.
Yeah, but like I said, everyone could just Google right now, Handsworth, Birmingham, UK, Muslim population. You're going to see anywhere from 60 to 70% of the population is Muslim in Handsworth. And he just said that it's not the case, that it's not a Muslim majority. I mean, it's complete lie. And he says he lives there. I mean, what kind of a guy who says he lives in this, like, it's like, this is your own city and you're lying about it. This is your own area. You're lying about it. That's crazy.
One thing that I wanted to share too is I spent a lot of my life working in DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion.
Yeah.
So
we've heard.
You've heard that.
Yeah. I even heard you say about a year ago, I'm really big on DEI.
Yeah, I know. I've spent a lot of time in that space. And sorry, 1 second. I'm just adjust this. Okay, there we go. So the thing that I hear a lot, and I don't think these things are wrong, have imperialism and colonialism happen, sure. But you have to look at all imperialism and colonialism. You have to be honest. You can't just say, well, look at the Europeans who did imperialism and colonialism. You have to talk about Arab imperialism and colonialism. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to talk about both. And I think that that's a problem. And that is not being engaged. Like, a big part of like South Asian identity, because that's where Pakistan comes from, this South Asian identity where it's kind of this corpus of the Dharmic traditions, right? From the Indus Valley. So these people are not really different. People from Pakistan are not different from people from India. The big difference is that they are Muslim, but you have Muslim Indians too. What is the difference between a Pakistani and a Muslim Indian? Not really much. But they'll claim that, well, because we have this nation state, this now somehow makes us different than an Indian Muslim. Really what the differences are is there's different ethnicities. Like you have Pathan, Punjabi. Do you know what Nabil Qureshi's ethnic group was? Like what his background was? Was he like a Punjabi or a Pathan or a Muhajir? You might have been one of those, right?
I'm not sure. One of his parents was Pakistani, one was Indian, but I don't know about like the ethnic, more specific, yeah.
Because that's actually more the deeper kind of structure. But honestly, you had the Mughal invasion that came into South Asia. That's a part of the story. There was an imperialistic colonial enterprise that happened. Are we going to own that, or are we going to pretend that didn't happen? So if we're going to be honest and say, well, Europeans did imperialism and colonialism and did really horrible things, okay, most people do. Most groups have done these horrible things. It's not correct to go and say, I'm going to hold this standard for one group, but I'm not going to hold this other standard for other groups. Did people impose jizya and take poll taxes from people? They did. Was that right and good? In my estimation, I would say no. I don't think that was good. Were people subjugated? Yes. So if you want to say Europeans subjugated, took over land, stole people's stuff, that's fine. But then grant the entire picture. Don't just hide the narrative and say, well, I'm going to only show this picture and I'm not going to show the full picture. And I think that's a problem that I'm hearing on this panel. I'm like, what they're saying isn't wrong, but there's an omission of the entire narrative.
Yeah, and it's always a problem to just, you're looking at some problem right now and going, hey, I see a problem here. And it's, but there was this thing in the past and therefore we can no longer ever like talk about this problem because this thing happened in the past. And what was it? Well, you got Great Britain and look at this, look at the things they did and so on. And you're pointing out, wait a minute, you had lots of people trying to conquer the world and doing things like that. And I mean, following this reasoning, you can never talk about any problem because there are problems that came before it. It doesn't matter. Any problem in the world, you can point to and say, hey, what about this problem? Well, 17 centuries ago, this thing happened. So you can't talk about this. It's weird stuff.
100%. That's exactly the point.
Take some super chats here. I'd like to see D-Wood response method upscaled, something like no passenger flights to any airport within 1,000 miles of Mecca, excluding Israel for a week, per death in the name of Allah, no pilgrimage for you. Or my method, I send in Delta Force to take the Black Stone, and for every day there's no terrorist attacks, we treat the Black Stone nicely, and then anytime there's a terrorist attack, we mess with the Black Stone. The UK government are trying to sneak in Islamic blasphemy laws via the back door, not in the Al-Zut sense. It's funny, when I read not via the back door, I was thinking, not in the Al-Zut sense.
There's this is another point about two-tier policing in the UK. This is something that Tommy Robinson has brought to a lot of people's attention. And also the fact that you say something about Islam on X and you can get arrested for it. Whereas you can be Ali Dawa, like you pointed out before, saying that, he wants to kill all apostates or have apostasy laws. And then, you can say the same thing. You can say all sorts of horrible things about Jews as well, and you're not going to get arrested for that, at least unless it's extreme, unless it's very extreme. But you can just criticize Islam, and you're going to have the anti-terrorism police show up at your door. So this is a real thing in the UK. This is not just conspiracy theorists or people making a mountain out of a molehill. This is real stuff that affects how the country's run, even on a legal level.
AP going to stand for apostate prophetess after he transitions. Also, Junior cooked in that debate. Had no idea Allah's attributes were created. Thanks, Junior. Yeah, we're gonna have to check. We're gonna have to check that out. And that's what Junior's good at. He is entertaining and says some really dumb stuff. But that's just dawa. Take my money literally just for doing the accent. I assume the Piers Morgan powerful accent. Dawa raised how much to not build a Norway masjid? For all their fundraising for that masjid. They still haven't built it. D-Wood warned this would happen nearly a decade ago. I read that earlier. D-Wood, when does the Reconquista of Dearborn happen? Soon. Dearborn will be. I mean, Dearborn is named after a Revolutionary War general. D-Wood warned this would happen more than a decade ago. It did happen. Pagan Vikings versus Islam. Fight fire with fire. Imagine that epic battle. Pierce has a visceral hatred for Tommy Robinson. Yeah, he seems to just hold on to grudges forever.
Yep.
Watch. Next year, he'll still be mad at Megyn Kelly over something she said. Pierce reminds me of members of the Romanov family praising members of the Red Army, not realizing the fate that awaited them. Yeah, people do have the problem. I'm not saying you were wrong to say God may have solidified Pierce in his ways, but I am hesitant to use it because it makes it sound like he can no longer be saved. No, I just say you don't know. A person can be acting in a certain way and you say, this doesn't make sense. This person is intelligent. How does this person not get this? And then you have to say, okay, what explains this? Is it some sort of psychological barrier? Is this person under some sort of divine judgment? Is he lying? Is he being paid? I'm just saying you can't always tell. Those are all possible explanations. Hang on. I thank the Lord for giving me a God-fearing woman who loves Jesus 9 years ago today. Happy anniversary, Mrs. Flip. Love you, baby.
Hey, that's my grandpa called me Flip. He's very active on the channels.
Cool. Set up a stopwatch for when he says, hang on. No, we got to do a shot every time he says, hang on. And then we'll all be dead before the end of the live stream. Yeah. Pierce is a master of fallacious thinking. Yeah, he's pretty good at it on certain topics, at least. Hang on, I've not seen any radicals in my area, though. Therefore, they don't exist. Pierce.
Yeah, he said he lives in West London or super rich areas of London, and he's like, "Why don't I see Muslims over here?"
Pierce versus a young, pretty woman walking the streets.
Right,
He,
yeah.
yeah. He can actually be, yeah, Pierce. Pierce, get one of those makeup people to make you it won't work, but make you a pretty young
10-year-old.
woman. And yeah, you walk around and then see what happens. He can actually be a successful rapper, so I'd listen to him over Malik. Yeah,
Is that
I've
low-key?
never heard a low key song, but I can guarantee he's better than Malik. The rapper side with low key and 50 Chink. 50 Chink. All the best with your studies, Issa. Yep, they never end with Issa.
You're funny.
Chewbacca
But
defense.
Nabil was like me too, wasn't he? Nabil was going on his study too. He had a medical doctor and he was going for a master's degree in like comparative religion. So, or I think a PhD
I think he was
probably.
going for a
ultimately.
PhD. Yeah, in Oxford as well. He was Oxford. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was more than that. So he it's weird. He was a communications major in college, but he was also pre-med. So he got a bachelor's in communications and then he was pre-med. Then he went to med school. While he's in med school, he enrolls for the apologetics program at Biola. And so he does a master's in apologetics from Biola while in med school. He finishes med school, then he goes to Duke for a master's in religion, and then later he got a master's at Oxford, and then, yeah, was about to start on his PhD. But yes, Asa, you are correct. If Nabil were still here, he would probably be working on some extra degree right now.
Double PhD.
I think he and I would really get along personally.
Hey, you know what's messed up? Because I know him. So he had an MD. He would have eventually gotten a PhD from Oxford, and then he would have wanted something else. And so I'm just thinking he would have gone for a THD rather than another PhD, just because he would want different letters. And
sounds pretty cool. MD,
I think we're very
PhD,
much alike.
THD.
Yeah.
I think we're very much alike. I did this. I did the same kind of things too. So yeah, I'm getting another doctorate too. So with different letters. So yeah.
Now we got Chewbacca defense. Does Jai spell properly or Brit? Oh, yeah. Do you spell with the dumb British spellings or properly?
I spell properly. Yeah, I even spelled properly while I was living in the UK. So
good. There, see, he didn't give in to the peer pressure. We have Zut again. Michael Eric Dyson is that $10 words guy in real life. Yeah, they have been overrun, just not fully enslaved yet. Yeah, that's about right. I have solved the Islamic dilemma based on debating AI. Islam means contradiction, and it becoming a major religion is a miracle. Therefore, convert. That's a better response than we get from the Dawa guys. Of course, he doesn't have common sense. Thomas Paine wrote that book for the U.S. That's the benefit of not being able to make tea. That's what happens. You start drinking coffee instead of tea, you get common sense. That's a super sticker. Thank you. Pierce is an NPC. Change my mind. I won't try because I can't prove it. I feel the yogurt churning, and it is chunky. Kelly and Pierce are both owned by Red Seat Ventures. This is Caleb. IT returned back because there was an independent inquiry into the whole issue spearheaded by Rupert Lowe that concluded in February. Oh, yeah. Okay, so it wasn't just the Epstein files and then Muslims using that and then the reaction. Yeah, there was that whole, and they came out and said after lots of questioning, it's significantly worse than they thought. So you are correct. But I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination that came out while people are responding to Muslims who are pointing at the Epstein files and saying, you're all hypocrites. You're all hypocrites for pointing to a problem with the grooming gangs. David, just a quick question. How do you deal with humiliation and insult being a psychopath? Please help as it affects my life adversely due to my past. Ooh, like, what do you care, man? Just start walking down the street like naked for a while until you don't care anymore. Like, what can people do? What people do? They're like, oh, we're gonna say things. So what? I'm gonna insult you. Who cares, man? Sticks and stones, son. Sticks and stones. And with me, it's like if people are insulting me, I'm like, ha, you don't know a tenth of how screwed up I was. So what's going on in Sudan, Syria, and Pakistan?
That was a reference for Isa when he was mentioning what Muslims are not doing by and large, you made the comment that they don't make noise about Sudan, Syria, and Pakistan.
Nothing's going on in any of those places. They're all paradises.
Mm-hmm. All you can talk about Israel. That's all you can talk about.
It's just shocking. Like, there's civil war. There was a horrible civil war in Syria. Darfur was attacked. There was a horrible conflict between northern Sudanese and southern Sudanese. You have the Somalia situation between the Ibn Ishaq and, the Somalilanders versus the Somalians, like the Somalians versus the Somalilanders, and the horrible atrocities that they faced. And, you have a lot of like notable, what you would actually call genocides, like what you saw in Bangladesh in 1971 I would say that definitely would stand out, is that 200,000 to 3 million people is horrendous in 1 year. And we're talking about low tech weaponry. These people were intending to take as many people as they could out, because the goal of the claim of why they went into East Pakistan was they were trying to eliminate all the Hindus. That was the goal. They wanted to just slaughter all the Hindus, and basically that was the premise to go in, because this guy won an election. His name was Mujibur Rahman. He won the election to be the prime minister of Pakistan. They didn't want that, so they said, okay, we're going to go in and do an annihilation campaign to wipe out all the Hindus. So it's really insane, and you can look it up. It's invented, and it's crazy.
Yeah. And Syria is literally being run by a guy who was in ISIS. So
100%.
Ida says, I'm so tired of this PC, woke, Islamophobia, etc. So over it. Sorry, some things are not meant to blend like oil and water. The ideology, etc. Sad, but true. Yeah, lots of people are getting sick of this. So, and that's a good thing. People get sick of it, then they don't fall for the manipulation anymore, and then they can just kind of stand their ground and say, no, we're gonna discuss this whether you like it or not. Hello, ex-Muslim Pakistani in Germany has found the Lord Jesus Christ. Awesome.
Praise
Any
God.
tips on which denomination to get baptized into? Too many traps here, e.g. LGBTQ plus churches or heresies. Anyway, appreciate your work. God bless. Yeah, I'm not inclined to just say, go with this denomination, because that, you can have churches, that are screwed up from all kinds of backgrounds. And I don't know exactly how things are in Germany. I would focus on learning the Bible pretty well and going into a church saying, hey, can I see do you have something on like your statement of faith, exactly what you guys believe and so on? And you can sit through a service and so on. Make sure they're preaching the Bible and preaching it accurately, and then go from there. But so yeah, I'd be more inclined to base it on like the church and the leaders versus just, hey, what's your denomination? Debate topic: is Chunk correct that Israel is the Jewish state, the greatest state of all? Give Chunk a beta blocker first. Chunk Uger, 2018 to 2026 incendiary propaganda reigning champ. He was pretty good. It's pretty darn good. London Bridge is falling down song is prophetic. Dang, yeah, that is crazy. How'd they know that? You see, this is the proof. Guys, the average Jew in Israel, we're always been taught that Islam is a religion of peace, and we're taught to respect any person. I don't know how many really know the things that you talk about and expose. Yeah, I have to say, there are people there who understand.
Ida's one of them. Ida understands.
Yeah, Ida's one of them. But yeah, when we were there, I mean, when we tried talking about this to some people or even mention it because people are asking, they did not seem to like the idea of criticizing Islam. They thought that means you're really, really bad guy. Yeah. Which is why it's so insane that everyone represents it as like, the Jews are doing this and so on. That's what Dennis Prager said. There's no the Jews about anything. He goes, you have Jews who are on the far right. You have Jews who are on the far left. You have Jews who are everything in between. You have Jews on opposite sides of every issue there is. And so, yeah, weird stuff. And what's crazy is the people who will just, the Jews, are the same people who will condemn you if you say Muslims. If you just say Muslims, no, it's just particular people. Just address the particular person who's saying that. Don't ever say Muslims, and then they'll insulate the Jews. Issa being in DEI is worse than anything David's ever done. This is another one of those viral confession streams. You heard it here. The nicest guy who's ever been on live with us is actually the worst one. All nations want world dominion, past, present, future. That does seem to be a pattern over the centuries. I have to correct myself because I don't really know about the average Jew, but this is what I've seen for 30-some years living here. But I think many average Jews changed their opinion after October 7th. Yeah, that would be interesting to see how many people changed their mind. I lived in the UK around mid-2010s. I took a cab where the Muslim driver tried to solicit me to some Russian girl. Coppers did nothing. And Muslim also de-noggined an English service member in the street. It's nuts. Oh, yeah. You're talking about Lee Rigby? I remember that one. What's Issa's religious position as of now? Where does he begin? You want to give him another hour and a half?
Yeah, I think there's a lot we have to cover. Let's keep going.
Pray for him, guys. Pray for him.
My mom used to say, other people's opinions of me are none of my business. I go with that. That's good.
There you go.
I choose not the donkey or elephant, but the lamb. And Chunk Yogurt pretends to be intellectual. He's nothing more than a professional provocateur. Anytime he debates anyone with an IQ higher than a toaster, he gets cooked. Yeah, it doesn't seem to go well for him. That is a good description of Chunk Yogurt. All right, everyone, let's see some more of this until we get sick of it.
And one ethnic group is white British people, because most of the country is white British people. The reason that areas...
we already saw that. I rewound it because Jai
he
wanted
was
to fact check someone.
Andrew Gold, you're laughing.
Yes, you see, I caught him being factually incorrect about something. This proves he's a liar.
Proves that he doesn't do good research.
Yeah, because all three people, we're talking about immigration and Islam in the United Kingdom, which is a very serious issue. And all three of these guys have inexplicably blamed Israel. It has nothing to do with any of this. And to suggest that it's not anti-Semitic, I don't like to go around throwing anti-Semitic. I don't like the whole victim game. But it's the one tiny country in the world that's Jewish. And they're saying the reason that we're thinking about this is because of Israel. Meanwhile, the right are constantly saying to us that it's Israel and the Jews who are bringing the Muslims in. So the Jews are simultaneously bringing all the Muslims in because we love multiculturalism so much, and at the same time, it's all of us who are the ones who are blaming them. It's just utter nonsense. These people...
Yeah. Hats off to Andrew Gold for having some common sense here, but I always think the same thing because I'll hear it. Like, I'll have... like the orthobros, the online orthobros. David, you don't like Islam, but that's why you should hate the Jews. The Jews are bringing in the Muslims to conquer you and take over your country. And like, wait. So you're saying the brilliant strategy of the Jews is to bring in all the people who want to annihilate Israel and help them take over nuclear-powered Western nations. So... wait, I'm supposed to believe that the Jews are the masterminds because that would kind of make them the biggest idiots on the planet. But yeah, and then turn right around, and I'll hear the Jews are the ones who are spreading hatred against Muslims to keep Christians and Muslims divided. And that way we'll always be fighting so that we don't pay attention to what the Jews are actually doing and so on. But it'll be like opposite things on every side. And it's still just this claim of the Jews. Yeah. And so anyway, Andrew picked up on that.
I guess he's going to become the target of all of them because the venom started dripping out of all of their mouths as soon as he started talking. He's like, the second he was defending the Jews, Israel, they got really, they looked like they were like getting, they found like they're like really hungry and they finally got their plate of food. That's what they look. They look like they're ready for this. So yeah, so everyone's going to be attacking him next. And the way that I'm curious how they're going to try to, square that circle. I'm curious what they're going to say. Like, how do you maintain both positions other than just, making yourself sound ridiculous? I don't know.
We're about to find out. They're going to show you how. They're going to show you how it's done.
Just Israel and Jews.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Complete.
Yeah.
No, it's complete. Not every Piers.
Yes.
I would like to respond.
Layla.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, honestly, listening to some of your panel it's so infuriating. Calling concerns about immigration propaganda is really disrespectful to the ordinary person. It assumes that they can't think for themselves. It assumes that, if only the approved narrative is allowed, people live with the consequences every day of mass migration, housing, wages, school.
Look, you see Chunk, he can't let her speak. Yeah. Can't let her talk. Yeah. Can't let a woman speak. Unless it's Anna Kasparian or whatever her name is.
That's not propaganda.
I have a response.
Can you hear me, sorry?
Yeah.
Hello?
No, it is propaganda.
Yeah, we can hear you,
It
Layla.
doesn't
Keep
mean we
going,
have
yeah.
to believe it.
No, hang on. Can I just finish? The British public are not sheep. They don't need permission from commentators like the ones on your panel to talk about what's happening in their country. And the reason why we have massive demographic change in certain parts of the country is because right now, as refugees, asylum seekers, when their claim gets deemed approved, become refugees. And they are put to the top of the housing list because they are deemed most in need. And they are put in certain parts of the country in massive amounts of numbers. And when you do have immigration in massive amounts of numbers, they don't integrate, they tend to dominate. And that's what you've seen. And to say that it's due to propaganda is frankly really insulting. And I don't know, your one of your guests said that,
have I insulted you?
What's the big deal about the grooming gang?
You guys all insult
you have
Muslims
actually.
24/7.
Yeah,
now
you
you're
have
going to
actually,
catch feelings over getting...
Isn't this insane? I mean, imagine you're a grooming gang victim survivor or one of the parents. There were stories like a 12-year-old girl would, be up in the house and would manage to get a call out when she's in there with 5 guys and stuff, and her dad would go over there and stuff like this. And the Muslims would call the police on her dad, and they dragged the dad off. They dragged the dad off to jail.
Yeah.
Imagine you're the dad. And it's like, not only can these guys do all of that to my daughter, you will lock me up and call me an Islamophobe and a racist and a bigot for trying to stop them from doing that to my 12-year-old daughter. Imagine you bring this up and it's, oh, you're just falling for Israeli propaganda. It's like, what the hell? What did you just say to me? What did you just say? That's her point she's making. Acting like anyone who sees a problem is just, we're falling for the Israeli propaganda is an insult to anyone with a functioning brain who's looking at all this stuff.
Yeah, and Chunk is trying to bait her into engaging with him. He keeps interrupting. And he's like, "Oh, you guys insult Muslims all the time. You're insulting Muslims all the time." And I think Pierce said that she identifies as a Muslim, which I think Chunk identifies as an atheist. So
well, he also calls himself a Muslim whenever convenient, even though he's an atheist.
Oh, okay.
He's an atheist.
Yeah,
okay.
But he'll call himself a Muslim whenever he needs to be a victim.
Okay.
I am a Muslim. I am a
So
Muslim.
I'm so sorry. Layla identifies as a Muslim, and Jake identifies really as an atheist, but as a cultural Muslim. It's interesting. Wow.
So here we go. Let's let her.
Big deal about the grooming gang.
You guys all insult
you have
Muslims
actually.
24/7.
Yeah,
now
you
you're going to
have
catch
actually,
feelings over getting
I am a
insulted.
Muslim. I am a Muslim.
poor
And
you.
I am
Layla,
a
I would like to
Muslim. And I'm
respond.
insulted.
Okay,
I would like to
sure.
respond to Layla,
A
please.
sellout
Hang
one.
on.
I got it.
I am a Muslim.
She's pulling a Pierce. Hang on.
I'm insulted. I'll tell you what. And you know the difference between the grooming gangs and everything else, and it might have a relation to Epstein, is that yes, we do have white people committing grooming and sexual assault. The difference is that the state overlooked it. The difference is that these girls were groomed right in front of social services. They were picked up from schools. Counselors knew, the police knew, and they were failed by the state. The cover-up is just as big as the abuse that happens, and that...
Loki's actually nodding there, but I don't know because he's never on the correct side of any issue. So I don't know what he's nodding at or something like that. But yeah,
Probably
guys, that is
white crime. He's like, yes, white crime. Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, that is an important. Yeah. To be clear, you have perverts and pedos from every race and so on. There's 2 important differences. One, you can have an ideology that actually promotes the treatment of some other group that way. So these guys' beliefs, these non-Muslim people are inferior beings. They're the worst of creatures. Allah does not care about them. We can do whatever we want with them. Okay, now it's connected to an ideology. It's not just some sicko pervert doing something to a girl. It's an ideology justifying that thing. So that's one important difference. But she brought out the other important difference. It's okay. Normally, when someone, if police, people call into police and say some girl's being horribly abused by this group of men, they're going to go over and do something about that group of men, lock someone up or something like that. And with the Pakistani grooming gangs, it was no, the police, social workers, prosecutors, they'd all been trained that only a racist would have any problem with this. And so they just didn't act and they let it continue and they covered it up for years. So pretty big difference there. And so if you're thinking in terms of Islam and integration and so on, you have to say there's something strange about this ideology. They're able to get away with certain heinous crimes by manipulating the powers that be. And you say, okay, well, how did that happen? And we really need to be on guard against that because they're basically getting a special status in society. How are they going about that? We need to be on guard against that. But if you say, hey, we need to be on guard against that, then they'll say, but what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And what about that? And I have to say, because she mentioned, possible Epstein connection, the connection I see is that people who are wealthy may be able to get away with certain things, like people who are screaming Islamophobia. But guess what? That doesn't mean you don't condemn one because the other. It's you condemn both of that, and you don't let anyone get in that position where they can get away with horrible crimes. Not because of your ethnic background, not because of your religion, not because of your wealth. That's the solution. Not this. You can't point out anything because for anyone you point out, I can point out someone else who's doing something, and therefore we can never talk about anything.
Yeah,
Totally clean. That's a very clean argument.
Yeah.
Let's see where she's going.
Because we have politicians who are bowing down to a block Muslim vote. And the sooner we recognize that, the sooner we can deal with an issue. Right now, we have governments that are trying.
There are child rapists. We have a Labour government who have gotten away with it because they are super powerful.
Yeah, guess what? That's exactly what I just said, right? Yeah, there are powerful people who've not been prosecuted because they're able, with their wealth and connections and so on, to evade prosecution. You don't want people to get in a position where they can evade prosecution. You have to deal with that sort of thing, but you also have to deal with it with, like, Pakistanis. If they're getting away with it for some reason, you have to remove the things that are enabling them to continue the behavior. Same thing with the elites who are doing this stuff. Of course, yeah, you have to. That, by the way, that's the point of releasing the Epstein files. That's why people were demanding it. It's like, you cannot just let this go. You have to expose this stuff and hold people to account. And if they're not being held to account, people aren't being arrested, guess what? You got to keep pushing until this is all brought to the light.
Yeah.
Powerful, and those same child rapists are now trying to blame Muslims and to distract you because not one of them has been held accountable.
She's pointing out we're not talking about the U.S., you idiot. We're talking about UK.
Sorry. Okay, hang on. Look, just to be clear, hang on. Please, everybody, time out.
Everybody, hang on.
Time out.
Everybody, hang on. Time out.
I want to make a point. Is that it's actually disingenuous to say,
Pierce, you just have to get the technology to cut people's mic, man. It's that simple. Sorry.
It's really easy.
I would do that in a heartbeat. Boom, mic cut. All right, now I'm talking. All right, now you gonna be nice. You're gonna be nice. All right, I'm turning your mic back on.
That the grooming gang scandal is in any way connected to Israel or what's happened in the last few years. This is a scandal that's been 20 years.
Not 1% disingenuous. Almost every piece of anti-Muslim propaganda is driven by
Pierce finish a point?
Wait a minute.
Allies in American media and politics.
But Cenk, we're talking about a scandal that's 20 years old, and the real scandal was not just the appalling abuse of these girls by these predominantly British Pakistani Muslim men, but it was in various towns.
So
but also the cover-up by the establishment. Hang on, Cenk. Hang on, I'm finishing my point.
Hang on.
But also the cover-up by the establishment from
Seriously,
bottom up to the top. Because people were worried about saying who was perpetrating the crimes for fear that it would cause racial hatred towards the British Pakistani community, which was in itself a scandal. But it had nothing to do with an Israeli lobby. It's been going on for 20 years.
Okay, can I speak, Piers?
Yeah.
I just want to say,
sorry.
What's up?
Chunk, he's gonna. I guess he's gonna keep interrupting everybody. He interrupted her. He interrupted Pierce.
He's not going to interrupt Loki. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, of course not.
So Layla was like, while Pierce was talking, and he was like, about the grooming gangs, and Chunk goes, "So what? Just arrest them." Like that. Like that's the solution. Just arrest the guys who are like. Does he not know what's going on? She was like, "Who is this guy? Like, who is this idiot?" Who
Well, just
like,
arrest them. Just arrest them. That was the point. You couldn't,
Exactly.
and you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Wait,
I have a point to
you're
make.
telling me
I think Jang talks about a lot of issues that are outside of his purview, like talking about the Palestine-Israel situation. He's like, well, here's just a quick, easy solution for like having a two-state solution. I'm like, these folks have been trying to do this for like 70 years. This is not easy.
Yeah.
So you can't just get quick, fast food results.
that it's a coincidence. It's a coincidence that in the middle of the Epstein files, that all of a sudden this scandal comes up again. Oh, look at that squirrel!
Oh,
look over
shut
there!
up.
Don't look at
Sorry,
the Epstein
excuse me,
files.
this guy
Don't look
is
at the
beyond
child rapists.
unbearable to
Okay.
Oh, grooming gangs.
I would like to
Muslims.
say. I would like
okay,
to
who's
say.
got power?
I would
This
like to
guy's so
say.
disrespectful.
I would like to say.
Wait, I wanna
I
be
would like
super
to
Okay,
say.
don't
Who is
talk
this
at
guy?
Do you
once.
think that
Don't
Pakistani
talk at once.
Muslims
Hang
have
on.
more power than pro-Israel people in the UK or the US? Because I'd love for
Did you just hear what he said? Are you saying that Pakistanis in the UK have more political power than what Israeli people in the US? What in the blue hell does that have to do with the topic here? I guess so. If there are people who have political power, therefore it has to all be propaganda and can't actually be a problem. This dude's nuts, man.
you to make that point because that's a hilarious
You're
joke.
obsessed, Chang.
The people who have
Chang, you're
more
obsessed
power,
with
the
Okay,
Epstein
let-
class, not
let
one
me
of them
bring
has
in-
been
let me-
prosecuted. Not one of them.
Let me
Well, they should be.
let me bring
They
in
should be
Loki.
prosecuted.
Loki, your response.
Okay.
Loki.
The point here is that Reform UK is funded by Christopher Harborn,
guy again.
who is a resident of Thailand.
You already read
and
this
has
script,
an
dude.
alternative name that he uses. Reform UK is also funded by Jeremy Hoskin, who is a resident of Ireland. Both of them have business interests all over tax havens. Why are they unpatriotic? That is insulting to the people of this country. The second point, to address what was mentioned before, there's a book by the name of The Islamophobia Industry, Social Movements from Above. There's a chapter in it by Sarah Marusek. She analyzed the Islamophobia industry,
I just have to
which
say-
includes...
I have to say, he's got the Ali G accent, and I can't unhear it.
Yo, so, back where I's from in Staines, we's got this book, isn't it? This book be called The Islamophobia Industry. And it be about how all these wankers in here, isn't it? Yeah, that is.
He's got the I can't unhear it. No, he's got the Ali G accent, and he already read the script on his opening. I think he's just going back to it, I guess.
I really dislike this. They keep saying Islamophobia, and I'm like, are you going to be accountable of the things that you're doing that aren't right? Like this bothers me. Like at the end of my soul, I'm like, what are you doing? You keep saying how these people are bad. Why don't you cleanse yourself? Clean your own community before you talk about others. Stop talking about Jews and Christians. Fix your own community. There are tons of problems that need to be there. There's actually a great interview in Pakistan because it's like my favorite country, Pakistan and
Come
Egypt.
on. A great interview in Pakistan? Yeah, right.
Well, what was interesting is they had this famous actress. Her name was Veena Malik. And she came on this show with an Islamic cleric. And the Islamic cleric is like, your cleavage is showing. You are putting everything out there, And she's like, stop looking at me. You need to fix, like, there's acid being thrown in women's faces. This is a problem in South Asia in general. But, like if a man can't get with a woman, he throws acid in her face. It's like really evil and horrible. But it's across the subcontinent, unfortunately. But she was like, because her cleavage is showing, who cares? Like, I don't know. Like, this is something I don't understand. I'm like, why do you care about this? But some people do. They're like obsessed. They're just.
Why do
I think
Muslims care about controlling? Yeah.
the sexuality? There's unhealthy. It's very unhealthy. But she's a pretty woman and her cleavage is showing. So what? But he's like, your cleavage is showing, and he tried to say it in like this passive aggressive way. And then she's like, and then she was very direct with him. She was like,
Why are you
this
looking?
corruption, You have all this evil corruption that's happening in Pakistan. Why don't you stop worrying about my cleavage and start fixing your problems in your country? And I agree. Pakistan needs to be fixed. Egypt needs to be fixed. These countries have massive amounts of problems, massive amounts of human rights violations. The economy stinks. A lot of it is military dictatorship. You have horrible, disgusting regimes that are going on, and you're complaining about Israel? You're complaining about United States? Fix your own problems. Don't complain about UK. Fix your own country.
Listen, can I just stop you there? I am Muslim.
I didn't interrupt you. I haven't finished making my point. Please allow me to finish.
Everyone else did.
Please allow me
Everyone
to
else
finish.
did. I don't need to hear about a book
allow me to
that's
finish.
full of propaganda.
75% of the organizations that fund the Islamophobia industry also fund the building of illegal Israeli settlements in violation of the Fourth Geneva Convention. That is a material historical fact.
What are you talking about? We have thousands of British white girls who were tortured and raped by Pakistani Muslim rape gangs.
Child sexual exploitation in this country are male.
Are you interrupting now?
Are male. The majority of those carrying out sexual crimes in this country.
I'm gonna have to.
In this country,
okay, let Layla finish her point.
That is a manufactured myth by you and others like you.
While they respect women so much.
Let Layla finish her point, please.
Jake and low-key respect women so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do.
Right? And I do not appreciate we have a Labour government that's trying to push Islamophobia laws, trying to criticise and criminalise any criticism of Islam. That is not what Britain's about. Britain is about freedom of speech and the freedom to criticise everything. We have Pakistani Muslim rape gangs that were ignored to protect a Muslim bloc vote. We do have Islamic radical terrorism in this country, no other kind of terrorism. And I have to speak out because I recognise that there are millions of Muslims like me who don't feel that way. We don't associate themselves. But to pretend that it is not happening in this country is actually a danger to this country. We have people who are convicted.
According to Chris Hunter, let the woman finish without bringing up some stupid response.
Who are convicted. Can you just be quiet for a second, for Christ's? We have a convicted terror bomb maker from the Muslim Brotherhood, from Egypt, who arrived illegally on a boat and that was granted asylum, put in a hotel in London at the taxpayer's expense. There is something fundamentally wrong with the way we discuss radical Islam in this country. And I agree, it's not taking over the country. Of course not, but it does represent a national threat. And Muslims in general, the majority of them come here to integrate and assimilate, and they are like me. But there are some that come to Britain and expect the country to change for them. And if it doesn't change for them, we get people like those on your panel calling it racist. There's nothing racist about that. It's called patriotism.
Yeah, and I would say
people who come here have to recognise that they're moving to a British country.
Okay, let me bring in Kehinde. Yeah, let me bring in. Hang on. Let me bring in Kehinde. Let me bring in Kehinde. Cenk, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you, Cenk. I want to bring in Kehinde Andrews.
I promise, Cenk. Let someone else talk.
I've travelled a lot to the Middle East. I've been to Saudi Arabia a few times in the last year, to Qatar several times, to Dubai and other places.
And I have a Muslim friend.
One thing's for sure, if anyone tried to go over there and instill their culture and their cultural values or their laws in a country like that, they would be very quickly dealt with. And I think what people feel here is, for example, does it concern you that there are estimated to be 85 Sharia councils in the UK that manage disputes between Muslims and ensure Islamic law is being upheld? Now, they have no legal force under UK law, but they have a lot of influence. But they have a lot of influence. Here's my question. And this is for Kehinde. This is for Kehinde. Hang on, Loki.
Oh my goodness, Loki, man.
Loki, I'll come back to you. Everyone must get a chance to speak.
Your name's literally low key. Be more low key, dude.
So, Kehinde, my question is, should we tolerate that? If we genuinely believe in having an inclusive, multicultural society, is it right that we tolerate, because many people feel very uncomfortable about it, should we tolerate the existence of Sharia councils?
So I think the question misses a massive point. How can the UK, the largest empire in history, remember, talk about going to other countries and instilling your values? I mean, it's completely ridiculous, completely nonsensical. British expats are probably the worst going to places and colonizing them and expect them to be
Stop
to be
judging the
just to be
present
100%.
by
Let him
the
finish
past.
his
Yeah. So look, this thing that you did two centuries ago, it means you cannot complain about anything now or say that anything is wrong right now. That's like insanely idiotic. And you've got people like this teaching in universities. It's insane.
point, please.
Let me finish what I'm saying.
Let him finish his point.
Secondly, the idea that there's a minority, Muslims are a minority in this country, and they're in particular areas, and because of white flight, like I said, this is why we tend to be congregated in the same area. What does multiculturalism say? It just says that you should respect people's cultures and values. As you said, there are 85 Sharia councils. They have no basis in law. So if a group wants to come together and say, actually, can we manage things internally? That is fine as long as they're not breaking the law. And there's no evidence that any of these Sharia councils are breaking the law. It's a confected, made up nonsense that the idea that Muslims are incompatible with the West. This goes back thousands of years, by the way. And it is a deeply racist idea that somehow...
Thousands? So thousands would be at least 2,000 years, right? That people have had a problem with Islam for thousands of years? Huh.
Oh, yeah.
Muslim.
Hey, I'm going to have to fact check that, buddy.
Yeah, Google that one, guys.
I'm going to get Jai to fact check that.
Incompatible. And if the issue actually was about segregation,
why don't you listen to the nuance of an argument? I am Muslim myself.
Exactly. And I've just heard you somehow conflate. And I've just heard you say, look, there are bad Muslims. There are bad people who are Muslim. There are bad people who are Christian.
And it's got nothing to do with religion. Of course there are.
The idea that you would be then saying, well, let's stop. How could a Muslim straightforwardly actually come on and say we don't need laws against Islamophobia, and we know that Islamophobia is a huge problem with hate crimes, etc., etc., etc. That's nonsensical. And
hate crime already. You just said it. There is legislation against.
Can I ask a question? We make all this issue about Muslim areas. They don't exist. Like I said, they're actually very diverse. If it's actually about segregation and about one group of people living together in the UK, the only group of people that is white middle class people who do it all the time. They separate themselves off. They go to the best.
What?
He's such a liar. This guy's saying Muslim communities don't exist. These are like the only communities that exist are just rich white people. That's it. There are parts of London, parts of Birmingham, Manchester, all like the major cities in the UK where you can go and you're only going to hear like Urdu or Punjabis being spoken. And that's not a problem to speak another language, but most of them can't even speak English. And so the idea that they don't have a community where it's like it's just Muslim community or it's just like Pakistani Muslim community, this is a reality. It's a reality within the UK. And for him to say that, this guy's a complete liar. He's a complete liar.
Completely out of touch with the reality here.
Yeah.
They go to the best schools. They live in the top. Why isn't it a problem when we have so many parts of this country which are isolated with white middle class people who have their own values and keep everybody out? Why is that not a problem? Why is somehow Muslims a problem? Why would I ask?
I'm not going to sit here and argue with this guy who has no idea what he's talking about. I'm Muslim. I know millions of Muslims like me, and we do not like radical Muslims coming in here and giving us a
don't like radical
he can't understand that. Then maybe he should go and visit
the treasurer of your party, Nick Candy, is in the Epstein files.
Oh, this
Did
guy
he know
again.
Ghislaine Maxwell? What's your response?
And has he done any wrongdoing? And
what's your response?
And has he done any wrongdoing by being in the Epstein
The question
files?
is open.
He met him for a business deal.
Right.
Yeah, that's something. You have people who are just like looking up names who are in the Epstein files and so on and saying, this person's in the Epstein files. Okay, for what? For what? Is it just describing someone who was at a conference or something like that who shook hands with him at some point? Or is it someone who's like on the island and doing stuff? People aren't making those distinctions right there.
Did he say that someone in her party, like I don't know the exact details, but someone met with Maxwell? Is that what he said? Because Piers Morgan has a picture with Maxwell. He's addressed this before.
And people have done the exact same thing to Piers. You were with Epstein. Where? Yeah. Where was I with Epstein?
Oh, you have a picture with Maxwell. It's like,
yeah.
We're not talking about we're not talking about Nick Candy. We're talking about immigration. How is that related?
Of course,
you cannot argue your argument. So you're picking on random stuff that have no relevance. I got to go.
I mean, Allah's in the Epstein files.
That's why she left, because she can't
Yeah.
stand these people.
Yeah,
These
and I
guys are,
get
like,
it, man. I get it. This
Yeah.
just like arguing with three idiots at once.
Yeah.
And they're all like piggybacking, and they're all being dishonest, and they're poisoning the well. Loki is extremely poisoning the well. He's saying, well, somebody in your party, so what if someone in your party did something? You know, like this is
And again, she's pointing out what did he do? Is there wrongdoing, or he's just named in the files for being at a meeting or something like that? That's what I would wonder, right? Because if you just say if your only claim is this, a guy from your party is named in the Epstein, guess what? A guy from everyone's party is named somewhere, unless you have a brand new party made up of specifically people who've never been at any event where some of these other people were at. That would be the only way. No one in your party has ever been named in any of these files and so on. But it's like, what? Was he named for actually doing something wrong on an island or at something else? Or he's named there? And I saw no response. So, and yep, I'd be annoyed too. And so Pierce knows what that's like.
That's exactly what you're doing. Oh, no, you can't be forced to debate. No, you have to run away. This has not been pure Israeli
to be fair,
propaganda.
hang on.
All right, now it's 3-on-1.
Cenk,
Yeah, they always do this thing about running away, so they gang up on
you're running
her.
away.
They,
Yeah, we'll
after
shout you
she-
down, not let you make a point, say
Right.
stupid things, lie over and over again, and then I'm not interested in this right now. You walk away. You see, you're running from the truth and the power of our arguments.
Yeah, if she stays, oh, you're a sellout, you're not a real this, and we would probably dispute if she's a real Muslim or not or whatever. But the point is, it's like she's up there making a point. They're not addressing her point. They're just interrupting her every time she talks, insulting her, and she has every right to just walk away from that. And the second she walks away, oh, you're running, you're right. Like this is like a dawa point, like talking point when someone leaves a discussion.
To be
Can
fair,
I solve it? Can I solve it?
You guys, it has been. It's unbelievable the answers you guys have been giving, because it's just been all deflection every single time. But what about Epstein? What about Nick Candy?
That's exactly what this entire
I can say,
story is.
listen. But Cenk, I'm a Jew, right? And I've already sat here and I can say there are huge problems that I find in the Hasidic Jewish community. Why can't you guys, when we talk about the grooming gangs, when we talk about Islamism, not just in the UK, the way it's spread across the Middle East and Europe, the things that are going on in Iran right now, and I haven't seen one tiny morsel of, you know what, there are some bad issues here. Every single moment has been deflection, so no wonder Layla's gone. She can't be bothered talking to people with an IQ of about 7.
You have the IQ of this death.
Oh yeah, I know.
I have to say that little thing was brilliant, because these guys are all narcissists. I don't know about the professor, if he's actually a narcissist, but Cenk and Loki, they have a serious problem. So if you just make your point and then go, yeah, and that's, you guys are super low IQ. Hey, low key, you should change your name from low key to low IQ. Why don't you do that?
That's
and watch them flip out, because they can't handle that.
Yes, low Q. Ice from Luton, and but low Q. I don't think he got the insult. He just probably like, yeah, that's right, yeah, 7, yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying I'm not a 6? What? Yeah, represent. So smart.
Not deflect. We'll talk about something other than Epstein then, because you're being asked about grooming gangs.
All right,
Talk
hold
about
on.
something else.
Let me solve it. Let me address it.
Oh, here you go.
Let me
Chunk Yogurt's going to solve it. If there's a problem, he'll solve it.
Let me address it.
Okay,
So,
can you address it, Cenk? Before you do, let me just ask you, can you address it?
Can you shut
address
up
it
and let
without-
me address it?
Can you address it without mentioning Israel? Or can you address grooming gangs?
No.
Can you address anything
no.
without mentioning Israel or Epstein? Can you respond to anything? If I ask you what 2 + 2 is, can you answer without complaining about Jews or Epstein files? Can you do that? Is that possible?
The answer is no.
Because that's the whole reason we're having this conversation. Because your Israeli buddies wanted a distraction from the Epstein files.
See, he couldn't do it.
That's why.
Did you guys see it? He couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. Literally,
Yeah,
you
no, he
answer this
literally
without
said
doing
no.
it? Well, no. And then, wow.
Yeah, no,
threw
he
this
literally said
garbage into
no.
the meeting.
Jink wasn't
now
like
let
this.
me
Because
address-
I've seen his show. I've seen Young Turks. He was not obsessed about Israel like this. It's just like of recent years, he's just gone on the anti-Israel bandwagon, like 100%. He, if you watch his earlier stuff, he was a lot more nuanced than this. It's just insane. He's always on anti-Israel. Everything is about Israel.
Yep.
It's funny because they'll accuse like David of being on an Israeli payroll, or they'll say like, you get 7,000 shekels or $7,000 or whatever. But actually, I wonder how many of these guys their banks are going up because of their anti-Israel, because that's a huge audience. That's a huge audience.
You're right.
So
You're right.
yeah, I wonder if it's projection a lot of the time.
It's heavy, bro.
Explain
In
to
an
you.
adult way.
Pierce just explained to you that that's been going
Will
on for
you
30
shut
years.
up and let me address
It's been
it?
going on for 30
You're
years.
asking me a question and I'll answer it. You're asking me a question and I'll answer it. This is super easy. Why don't you arrest
Here comes the
everyone
buckets of sweat.
who's committed a crime? So if Pakistani grooming gangs exist, and I'm sure they do, then arrest them. Where's the question?
Yeah, but they didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's saying they didn't, and we're back to the point we already talked about earlier, that, yeah, if people are committing crimes and the people committing the crime, who are committing the crimes, have come up with a system for that allows them to get away with committing the crimes, you have to deal with that. But what about if same thing over there, same thing. If rich people have come up with ways of getting away with stuff, you gotta come up with a way of dealing with the problem. But you don't ever do that by just deflecting.
They didn't arrest them, did they? Because of people like
shut
you.
up and let
They
me
didn't arrest
finish.
them.
If there's people, shut up and let me finish.
I kind of like that he keeps yelling "shut up" and the other guy keeps talking. That's funny. Shut up! I have to say, if I was talking to Chunk Yogurt, if he wanted to say, "Hey, can I finish my point?" or something like that, I'd be happy to let him finish his point. If he says "shut up," there's no scenario where I'd shut up. Yeah.
You can't shut up after he says that.
He is.
Yeah.
Will you shut your Jew mouth? I'm Turkish. You know what they say. That's why they say a Turk will eventually always show his true colors.
But you know what was interesting? Andrew has hardly spoken in this conversation. Loki and Jank have dominated most of the talking space, and he's telling Andrew he's trying to make Andrew Saul Irun, which is horrible. He's trying to belittle him and subjugate him. That's what it looks like, you know.
Trying to dominate him, yeah.
He's dominating him. He's making him small, and I'm like, Andrew has not spoken, and he should give the space to allow for other people to speak. Well, and I agree with David. Jank did not interrupt the professor or Loki. He just let them speak. But when Andrew has a different opinion, he just shuts him down at any moment. And then he keeps bringing up Israel. He keeps bringing up Jews. It's really disgusting. It's really gross. And Jake has had trouble because his podcast has had a lot of Jews on it, but there's been tension. There's a lot of tension. I saw one Young Turks episode where Jank and this Jewish correspondent that was on the show, I forgot what his name was, who supported Israel, they really went at it. They were fighting. He was like, dude, like, you've got to stop attacking Israel. This is just insane what you're doing. You know, like, do you attack Turkey against its horrible, conquest against Kurdish people, like the horrible oppressions against Kurdish people, and any dissidents against Erdogan? If you're like Hizmet, who were like Fethullah Gulen, any dissident has suffered against the Erdogan regime. Are you going to critique the Erdogan regime with the same zeal that you're attacking, Netanyahu? You're not. The oppression against Kurdish people is insurmountable, but we're not discussing it. And in Iraq, the Kurdish people have suffered everywhere: Syria, Iraq, and Turkey. And Turkey's probably the worst, and no one wants to talk about it.
Well, if you want to talk about the Turks and the Kurds, what about the Uyghurs in China there, huh? Yeah, I didn't think about that. Oh, yeah. Oh, and you don't want to talk about the Aborigines in Australia and what happened to them, do you? Yeah. Ha-ha. Issa just got wrecked.
Or what the Kurds do to the Assyrians. The Kurds and the Assyrians.
Assyrians, you're right.
But that's it's a real issue. I mean, he's got like this like Armenian sellout on his show, and like you said, do they ever talk about Kurds? Do they ever talk about Turkish treatment of Kurds, or what they do to the Kurds? It's like the number one human abuse group is in Turkey, the Kurds. So yeah, but of course he's not going to talk about that. He's not going to. That doesn't bring in the clicks or the pay. It's Israel. That's talking about Israel, against Israel. That's what's popular now.
So if there's a white gang of people who are raping people, arrest them. If there's a bunch of super powerful people who are raping American girls, arrest them. This is all super simple. But when we go to arrest...
It's not like, yeah, if someone's committing horrible crimes, arrest them. Okay, they were committing the horrible crimes and no one was arresting them and the entire system was covering it up and people in the government are still trying to silence and cover things up. Okay, what that means is it's not just the person who's committing the crime that is the problem. There's some huge issue going on, and how did things get like that? And you got to deal with, just arrest them. That didn't happen for a reason. And so you got to kind of figure it out, right, Cenk? And it's not that easy, dummy.
Anyone demand to arrest anyone in the Epstein files, they go, oh, the Muslims, the raping, it's the Muslims, it's all the Muslims. Everybody hate the Muslims. Yeah. It's an obvious diversion. That's why we're bringing up.
I don't know what planet this dude lives on. Like all I was seeing after the files were after the files were released, all I saw was, how is this person not being prosecuted? What's going on here? Oh my goodness, who redacted this name and so on. It's people can focus on that and be calling attention to the grooming gang stuff at the same time. It doesn't mean it's a deflection. It means there are multiple problems and different people focus on different problems. Like, you don't see me complaining a whole lot about the Epstein because I would have to read all of that stuff in order to actually have any clue what I'm talking about. And I'm like, well, there's plenty of people responding to that stuff, so I don't need to do it. With Islam, I'm like, okay, there's not enough people responding to it. Anyway.
But isn't it like the height of irony that he's talking about diversion? Like he's complaining about diversion. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing he's been doing on that show.
They're just trying to deflect. They're just trying to deflect. It's literally everything I've ever seen him do is deflect.
Yeah.
Israel and the Epstein files, because in the midst of the biggest story that there has been maybe in my lifetime, all of a sudden the grooming gangs pop back up. You want me to condemn them? Super easy.
Because they had this big inquiry, Cenk, like they announced it last year, and then they've been doing it, and then they started announcing the results and how messed up the stuff was. So he has to conclude that these are all like on Epstein's payroll to, deflect at just the right time, even though they announced they were doing this before all the Epstein files were released and so on. But it's all part of the plot. It's the Jews. Come on.
Condemn them. I condemn them 200%. I hope they're in prison. I hope they never get out of prison. But that's not the issue. You're not bringing it up because you're concerned about victims. You're bringing it up so you can say the dirty Muslims did it. Now, let me explain something to you, okay? Yes, if we had the same exact conversation, but you took out the word Muslim and you put in the word Jewish or Jew, and we had a whole debate about, should we ban the Jews? Are the Jews a problem in the UK? Do the Jews have the wrong kind of culture? We would all be canceled. We'd all have our careers ruined. None of us would ever work in media again. But here we are having a conversation of, is the problem the Muslims? And should we ban the Muslims? And the Muslims have the wrong culture.
There you go.
That's exactly what you do, and you're doing fine.
These guys have literally bought our government. They've contributed, bribed 94% of Congress, and you're telling me that the pro-Israel forces don't have any power. The real problem is Muslims who have like almost no money or no power in the UK, in Europe, or in America. So no this is a joke.
You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of like Candace Owens or Jake Shields or any of these people. Like, no one can say this about the Jews. No one can say this about the Jews. Like, this is all you do all day is say about the Jews.
They sit there complaining about Jews all day, every day.
Yeah.
And simultaneously say, why aren't we allowed to talk about the Jews?
It's like, dude, that's all you've been doing on the show is talk about the Jews.
And I mean, think about this. What? I mean, Pierce had like probably 200 shows about Israel and the Jews. And then anytime he wants to talk about anything else, it's, no, we got to talk about the Jews. It's like, well, can we just talk about this? No, we got to talk about the Jews. You see, the Jews are controlling everything.
I totally agree. I think it's a massive hypocrisy. In one breath, he's telling us, we shouldn't, racialize and demonize a group. Don't demonize Muslims. If a Muslim does something wrong, then put them in jail. That's what he said. He didn't even call them Muslim. He just said, put them in jail. But instead, let's make a straw man. Let's do a red herring. Let's do a red herring, and let's deflect from what we're talking about and talk about how Jews are responsible. This conversation is not about Jews. It's not about Israel. It's about these Pakistani people that did this particular thing. That has to be engaged. That's it. And it shouldn't be hard to be accountable. And Layla did a spectacular job where she's like, I am a Muslim. I'm British. I'm a Muslim. I'm a part of a Muslim community. These people are a disservice to my own community. I have to challenge them. And Cenk is like, no, I can't. Loki's like, no, I can't. And the other gentleman wants to just go and say, look, they reap what they sow. The chickens come home to roost. He wants to make that position. And I'm like, but these are all deflections and red herrings from the issue. Horrible atrocities against innocent people are happening. Call that out, be accountable, and be a decent human being. That's it. It's not hard to be a decent human being, I don't think, but maybe for some it is.
This whole conversation is propaganda by Israel to distract you from the Epstein files.
Okay. Andrew, I want to hear Andrew's. I want to hear Andrew's response to that, please, Andrew.
Well, it's just
Let's see how long Cenk can go without interrupting.
Absolutely nuts. You've been going on for half an hour there, just about, you can't say anything about the Jews or whatever. If there were 5 million Jews in the UK, now there's actually about 200,000. If there were 5 or 6 million Jews in the UK, if there was a kind of a grooming gang thing involved with the Jews, I would be the first person, and most Jews would be as well. The idea that also that there's this idea of Muslims or the poorest Muslims, this reverse racism that you're doing the whole time, right? There are 2 billion Muslims worldwide. They are in some of the richest countries in the world, and they are some of the most powerful people in the world. Qatari influence, you might say about Israel, I don't know. Maybe you're right. Because
it is seriously funny. Muslims don't have any power. Muslims don't have. Really? You've not heard of Qatar?
I can admit that people who are more on my side might be doing nefarious things. I don't know. You seem to have a total blind spot about Muslim power in the world. There's all of these, the Church of England, all of these different organizations, these religious organizations have different kinds of power that they assert in the world, okay? And we need to look at all of them. I'm happy to look at any Jewish ones. I'm happy to look at all the other ones. The fact is there is huge Qatari influence in American universities and British universities, and you don't want to know this. And you keep portraying Muslims as these impoverished little types. Yes, there are many impoverished Muslims, but there are many wealthy Muslims.
Andrew, you've defended Israel relentlessly over the genocide in Gaza. That has consisted of sexual crime at insane levels, the raping of Palestinian hostages in Israeli military camps. So that's not true. Okay, so you don't actually do what you say you do, which is you call out everyone.
But you're a conspiracy theorist. But you're a conspiracy, so I don't know what to do with all of these conspiracies.
You are pumping
all of your arguments. All of your arguments are this person's linked to that person. And I'm going to say some names.
In this conversation, aside from your feelings, what have you cited? Give me some documents. Why not read Dr. Ella Cobain and what she's written about these lies around quote-unquote grooming gangs, which is not even a criminal category that has... Look at who the majority of people...
Grooming gang's not even a criminal category. And he goes, what?
Ella Cobain, Dr. Ella Cobain, read her writings and understand these things rather than working from the space of feelings. Did you say
grooming gangs are not a criminal category?
It's not a criminal category.
It's not.
It is not a criminal category.
You mentioned the church.
This is where Layla would have
young girls. It's not a criminal category.
Well, hang on a second. Can I just point
out? Layla would have been good here as a lawyer. If Layla was still here, this is where she would school him because she's a lawyer.
Basis of grooming gangs. That's a media term which was used to promote this Islamophobic idea of the world.
Sorry, I can't let that go.
Yeah, now Pierce is saying I can't let that go. If you wanted to say, okay, the term grooming gangs is not a legal category or something like that, yeah, it would be like conspiracy to traffic using such and such method or something along those lines. That would be the actual category. But,
term which was used to promote this Islamophobic idea of the world.
Sorry, I can't let that go. Sorry, just to be clear, the grooming gangs was a criminal activity involving a large number of predominant
activity.
Loki,
obviously, it's a criminal activity.
The rape and abuse of thousands of young, largely white English girls by a group of largely British Pakistani Muslim men in places like Rotherham and Telford was absolutely a criminal activity, which is why all the perpetrators have now been put in prison.
I didn't say there wasn't a criminal activity, Piers. Listen to what I'm saying.
If you're just saying it's not, like how it's named in the media is not what it is in the actual criminal law code and so on. so freaking what? You're
exactly.
Yeah, you're bringing up something and then diverting things, and then it takes 3 minutes to clear up your stupid mess. There's only about a minute left of this stuff, so let's see.
Then interpret it. I am saying that by law, a criminal category does not exist for the crime of grooming gangs. Read Dr. Eloquent.
Yeah, it would be trafficking or something along those lines.
Bain's writing.
Well, that's
What's
the
your
label
point?
given
It's
to
a
the people
media
who were
term
perpetrating it in
created for
gangs.
particular
Let me jump in here
reasons.
because it matters.
All
This
right,
matters
well,
a
let's
lot.
just call it. All right, let's call it a bunch of. Let's call it a bunch of.
Child
Let's call it a
sexual
bunch of sex
exploitation,
abusing
which
rapists.
which is
There we go.
child
It
sexual
matters here because this
exploitation.
is
A good point. Pierce 1, low key 0.
Which is
It
the
matters.
term that experts use. Read
Yeah,
what
this matters
experts
because-
have to say, not podcasters shouting loudly on YouTube.
You know what?
No, Piers, this really matters, Piers, because-
I mean, this is serious. He's just making the stupidest point. Well,
Yeah.
you're calling it this. Why not call it something else? Yeah, you could call it whatever you want, dude. Idiot.
Sorry,
Look,
Piers.
hang on,
Hang
please.
on.
The bottom line with grooming gangs as a label is it was entirely accurate. You had gangs of people, largely British Pakistani men, Muslim men, who were grooming young white English girls to abuse them. That was what was happening. It was covered up.
Did it
was a
happen on an
national
industrial
disgrace.
scale, Piers?
It remains.
Did
It
it happen
remains
on
a
an
national
industrial scale,
disgrace.
Piers?
And
Did it happen on an industrial scale? What the?
No, but Piers,
you trying to explain that grooming gangs is not a criminal activity is, I'm afraid, disingenuous
Category,
bullshit.
Piers.
We don't
It's
care
a
what the category is, you
I mean,
idiot.
you know
I'm gonna
what,
leave it
to be
there.
honest,
I'm
to be
gonna
honest,
leave it there.
we
I
haven't
appreciate-
spoken about the
appreciate-
fact
I
that you
appreciate the
reported me
debate.
to the Metropolitan Police.
I
Piers.
appreciate, yeah.
You
The
reported me
only
to the
one-
Yes, they were
Metropolitan
grooming
Police.
gangs
Piers.
The only
and
one
they're
that's
in
not
prison.
arrested
Didn't
are the
happen.
Therefore, it
Israelis.
was a
happened.
criminal activity.
Mugging doesn't
The only-
exist.
I've got to leave it
A
there.
criminal
We've run out of
category.
time. Okay, we've run out of time.
Chunk
Guys,
is like,
thank you all very
"The
much.
Israelis. Yeah.
I feel dumber for having watched that,
You're not alone.
which is like half the Pierce shows I watch. I'm like, oh my goodness, that just destroyed some brain cells.
So that was. Chunk had to end it by saying, "The Israelis, the Israelis."
Chunk yogurt. Oh, all right. We'll take these last super chats. I think I already read this one. Insults are their flaws, not yours. Learn to laugh at you. That's true. The root is Fabian socialism, Quigley's tragedy and hope. Wonder which demographic has funded this ideology since post-World War I. The Jews. Approximately 2.5 billion people love and worship one Jew, you see. That's because the Jews tricked everyone into following the Jew. Layla will walk like an Egyptian. The Islamic funding from the Middle East has to stop. Hi from Japan. I hope Mr. David, very caring, pursue for months, alcoholic cigara. Jai is a have a good day. Oh, Isa. I think he was saying Isa there.
Thank you.
David Segara. Oh no, people are worried about a group that calls for our violent subjugation and death. How irrational. That's a good point. Especially they always condemn the ex-Muslims. Like, wait, how do you tell people simultaneously that as soon as we get the power, we're going to execute you, but you're not allowed to complain? Weird. That's that, isn't it? That's that, isn't it? That Ali G accent, we proud of that. It does remind me of Ali Dawa. Cenk is a Mossad psyop, you see? That's a good point. Isa is incorrect. Chunk's historically anti-Israel. Ooh, you just got burned up, man. I don't know. I wasn't following him years ago.
I don't think he focused on it. That's the point. It was not something that he cared about. He talked about a lot of different things, but it was not something he was fixated on. He did talk about the two-state solution and stuff like that, but he was never this like hostile towards Israel. I've watched his older content. It was not like this.
The only older content I've seen of his is when Steven Crowder trolled him as him. It was it was hilarious. He went to some event. He used to do like these like parodies or satires of Chunk Yogurt as him, where he like dress up as him and talk like him. And he went to one of his events, like talking like that. So that was the only like older Chunk stuff I've heard. The rest of it's been like through David's streams, but that's about as far back as I remember.
10 years ago, Cenk inspired the Baton Rouge shooter. don't know about that, but I just searched for it. There are people saying it. So here's someone's website. I said the Young Turks incited the Baton Rouge massacre, and they think they got away with it. Their loyal fan, Gavin Long, murdered 4 police officers and was directly inspired to do so by the Young Turks. Ever since YouTube made it easy and free to broadcast anything, self-declared content creators have been sharing their thoughts with anyone willing to listen. That's all well and good until those words inspire someone to kill. This is precisely what happened with the Young Turks. Anyway, that's how that starts, but I don't know. Not familiar with that. Layla confuses me. Practicing Muslim who doesn't seem to know Islam and little concern of demographic change, yet largely speaks soundly. I have to say, there are lots of Muslims and Muslim women like that in the UK.
Yeah.
I miss AP's soundboard. Perfect for these clips. Yeah, that's good. And hey, Issa. Issa showed up in the chat here. Thank you, Jai and David, for having me. Blessings. Yeah, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. All right, guys.
Great.
Any additional thoughts on that travesty of a show we just watched?
Someone said something about taking a shower. I need to take a shower after they.
I need a brain shower. Is there such a thing as a brain shower?
I was going to say the only thing I could think of is cleanse yourselves with the word of God and just try to remove all of that filth that you just heard from all those guys.
Well, it just sucks because I just had to watch all that, and now I'm going to have to go get clips from Times Square ready, and it's a bunch of deranged, idiotic nonsense as well. So
that's going to be really fun, though. I can't wait to watch that. Not for you to edit it, I know, but it's going to be fun to watch. That's
what I mean. I have to go. It was hours of stuff, and now I have to go through all that hours of stuff to figure out what we actually want to. It's cool. Thaddeus normally does this with like all the Malik stuff because there's no way I would just make it listening to all this stuff to find the important stuff that we want to talk about. But now I actually have to do it. Fun times. All right, guys. What are your thoughts on everything before we head out?
I would say that I think it was how they treated Layla was horrendous and evil. Like they're talking about fighting for justice and truth, and just the abuse against women. Like you did, I think, a stream where you had Zubaydah from Britain. She was there, Palestinian Zubaydah from Britain. You had a lot of women where just the massive abuses women are facing are disgusting. They're gross, and they need to be called out. And you're acting like you're Muslim, you're not for Muslim women. You clearly don't care about the Muslim women. You insult them, you mock them, you make fun of them, and you don't listen to them, and then you act like you're the great paragon of justice for Muslims. I don't know. That to me just was like deceptive and disgusting. And it just closed me down the way that they would not let her finish one sentence because she disagreed. She's like, I am a Muslim. I just don't agree with your position. And they're like, no, our position of, anytime a Muslim does something, we have to shut it down. We have to erase that they're connected to Islam. But if it's Jewish, terrible. If it's Christian, terrible. We're going to call if your identity is white, Christian, or Jewish, we're going to call you out, insult you, and hold that identity. But if you're Muslim and brown, no, it's wrong, it's bad, don't do it. And that bothers me. Like I don't like that. It was really, I felt unclean too. I felt really disgusted by the disingenuousness. Like if you want to stand up for people who are marginalized, I think that's awesome. But stand up for all people who are marginalized. Don't just stand up for your people. You just come off as grotesque and disgusting. That's it.
All right. Jai, anything else?
Yeah, brain shower.
Brain shower, everyone. Let's see.
Pray, read the word of God, and try to forget about everything you just heard except for what David and Issa we were saying.
We got Wholesome Chungus Show, Mr. Sagera, Team Zoot all the way. That's weird. No comment there. Thank you, though. Gavin Long had several videos on his social media accounts that showed him watching ACAB episodes of The Young Turks while plotting an attack. Oh, that's the guy who killed the police officers.
I think it's all cops are BAS.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I was sitting there thinking, okay, well, who cares if he watched a bunch of Young Turks episode? That doesn't mean that he did that. It's like a dangerous thing to say. Oh, this person watched a bunch. Like if I went out and killed a bunch of people tomorrow, and you say, oh, but he's friends with the apostate prophet, so the apostate prophet is responsible for this or something like that. But yeah, if it's a bunch of all cops are evil stuff, and that leads him to, you'd also have to say, you can be someone who hates cops, and therefore you watch stuff that's about cops being bad. Doesn't mean they are the ones responsible for it. So anyway, yeah, the point is, I haven't looked into it, so I'd have to see, like, there's a clear, like, this is responsible for producing this idea in this guy's head. But yeah, I don't know enough about it. Hey guys, God bless you. Could please greet Jerome. Hey, Jerome, what's up? Yo, Jerome.
Hey, what's up, Jerome?
Jerome. Put on that Bobby Womack. You guys are too young to even remember that song. It's called Back in the Day. Look it up. Look up the song Back in the Day. Back in the day when I was young and not a kid anymore. And then we have Hi, Jerome. So someone said it. Hi, Jerome. All right, Jerome. Peace out, Jerome. All right, guys. Thanks to Jai and Issa for joining me. In theory, if nothing goes horribly wrong, I'll be here tomorrow with Hatun Tash, Anthony Rogers, and Drake to go through some clips because we've seen a couple of short clips and so on, but there's more. There's more stuff. There's more stuff to check out. So we're going to go through some of the clips, talk about the stuff that we encountered in Times Square. Should be super cool. Hope to see you all tomorrow.